4 million years ago on the planet Earth, two brothers started watching Transformers media, and now they are going to make it your problem. Hi, I'm Hayden.
And I'm Frankie. And welcome to BroBots in Disguise, where we are going through and discussing every episode of every major Transformers cartoon. Hopefully.
We're making some good progress on this. We're chugging along.
We're still in Generation 1.
Yeah.
But welcome back to Season 2 of BroBots in Disguise, where we are discussing Season 2 of the original Transformers animated series, released in 1985 and largely following the episode order for Season 2 on TF Wiki, with a few minor adjustments for continuity.
And in today's episodes, paranoid Autobot Red Alert goes nuts in Auto Berserk. Perceptor magic school buses his way inside Megatron in Microbots. And the Autobots are voted off the Earth in Megatron's Master Plan, Part 1 and 2.
And just so you know, at the time of this recording, these episodes are available on Hasbro Pulse YouTube channel and on DVD and several other streaming services like Tubi. And we are not sponsored, by the way.
But Tubi is kind of cool.
And also, I mean, if we could get paid for doing this, I wouldn't mind, being able to do this for some money.
Tubi. Shout out to Tubi. If you have money to spare, which you probably do. Or maybe not. I don't know. Who uses Tubi?
I watched The Adventures of Robin Hood, the Errol Flynn movie on Tubi not too long ago. It's pretty good. That was a really good movie.
It has its uses.
What, the movie or Tubi?
Both. Anyway, with that, let's get into it. So, Auto Berserk.
Yeah, nothing to do with the anime with the guy with the big sword and the demons and the...
There was also a Keanu Reeves written and, I guess, starred, because the main character just is Keanu Reeves.
Okay.
Comic called Berserker, spelled without any vowels.
Oh, I've heard about that. Isn't he like some sort of like reincarnated Viking or something?
It's pretty cool. I kind of like it. It's Highlander, but with like Spec Ops.
Okay.
It's not too bad.
All right. But
yes,
1985 Transformers episode Auto Berserk.
When Soundwave attacks the Autobots' test of the new superweapon, the Negavator, Red Alert is wounded. This increases his paranoia, and he thinks the Autobots want to take him apart. So, he runs away. A rogue Starscream convinces Red Alert to help him break into where the weapon is stored and steal it. When they do, Starscream betrays him to Megatron. So Red Alert destroys the Negavator and goes back to the Autobots.
So the first thing I want to point out is they got some pretty groovy music there at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
But also, the Autobots and humans seem to be working together to build this weapon. Hayden?
Yes.
Get out your conspiracy board.
So, as we've established, there's a coalition between scientists and the Autobots. However, it seems like there's also stuff happening on the sidelines, which we also see a little bit of later in Megatron's Master Plan. But the technology, it seems to be about the same level that it's been at in previous episodes. Hasn't really advanced, per se, but yeah. Why do they need to make a Negavator?
Yeah, well...
what is a Negavator?
Well, apparently it just, like, negates the molecular structure.
Yeah, I guess it just
shoots.
deletes things from existence.
Basically, yeah. And Wheeljack made it, of course.
Yeah.
Apparently, this is kind of going back to the previous episode with Grapple and Hoist, and Optimus like, no, we can't build a solar power tower, but Wheeljack, we could build this delete things weapons. That's totally fine.
It's literally the weapon that a captain says to his trooper, "Soldier, do you see that mountain over there?" "Yes, sir." "I don't want to anymore." "Yes, sir." This is what you'd pull out to do such a thing.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's both remote controlled and piloted.
Mm-hmm.
So is this where they're at? Is this like an Autobot base or a human base?
Because it looks like a human base, honestly.
Yeah, but then all the humans leave, and the Autobots, that control room that Red Alert's in, is all orange. So it kind of looks like an Autobot base.
Well, again, Autobot tech is intermingling. Usually, the color coordination is orange. Anything is Autobot tech. Mm-hmm. Purple anything is Decepticon tech. Silver is usually human tech. And this was all like silver and stuff, but the Autobot tech being in the base is probably just like this is the Autobots room. Yeah. It's colored orange.
Right.
But yeah, it's also incredibly out of whack with like the scale of the Negavator. Sometimes it's the size of like it's a pilotable vehicle on like tank treads and a rotating turret.
Right.
Like a tank. That like Optimus and Megatron get in at one point in this episode.
Yeah.
But then also Frenzy pilots it, and it's like normal sized for him.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how big this thing is in general, but
speaking of, I like the idea of Soundwave and his cassettes as a strike team, because you just drop in this little tiny box and then it scales up to be Soundwave, and then you just start shooting out cassettes. That's a pretty great fight there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so ends up they fight over it, and part of the base, because Red Alert tells Inferno to watch his back, but
it gets shot in the back.
Inferno goes and saves Optimus Prime from being negavated, which, by the way, I read somewhere that it was originally spelled differently and was supposed to be pronounced differently, but
really? Okay.
It was like the negator or something that.
That makes a lot of sense.
But it was just easier for them to say over and over again.
The Negavator.
Yeah, the Negavator, which like combines it with elevator or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I thought it like excavator as well.
Yeah, yeah, that too. But so because Inferno doesn't watch his back in the control room, Red Alert gets shot with a missile, and then rubble falls on him, and man, he really looks like he's in pain.
Yeah, he's like distressed. And it looks like less of an physical pain and more of just like claustrophobic, like get this off of me, I'm trapped, I'm panicking sort of thing.
Because he's kind of in other episodes where he shows up, that's part of his profile, he's paranoid, da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. But in this episode, of course, because it's his spotlight episode, it gets ramped up, and we see it a little bit, but then he's just like freaking out under this rubble, and I like the red under his eyes.
Yes, it's supposed to look kind of like bags under the eyes or like bloodshot eyes.
Right, and the electricity that zaps on his ears.
They do a good job at showing that he is in pretty rough condition this whole episode.
Right. He calls it an electro glitch that comes and goes, but later we'll get to it in a second.
We'll do a deep dive on Red Alert and his character in a bit and kind of like retrospect. But and it's interesting too, because like as his condition worsens throughout this episode, I noticed that you pointed out that like, is he glitching or is he just being spiteful because he's so paranoid that they're gonna turn against him and stuff.
Right, because they take
when he doesn't notice the noise.
Yeah, they're trying to take the Negavator somewhere, and the Decepticons try to spring a trap, and Optimus tells him to analyze the noise, and he's like, "What? What noise? I don't hear anything."
Yeah.
So is he trying to get back at the Autobots? Because when he gets rescued from the rubble by Hoist, he goes off on Inferno and is like, "Why didn't you protect me? Why did you leave me?" So is he trying to get revenge on the Autobots at this point, or is he just glitching out and actually doesn't detect the noise?
Yeah. It's kind of up for debate. I do like in this sequence though that when the Decepticons attack while they're transferring it, I can't remember who scrambles their circuits.
It's Smokescreen.
Smokescreen.
Yeah.
Smokescreen scrambles the circuits of the jets, and they start talking in like backwards speech.
Yeah. I got it wrote down in the quotes, so we can go over it when we get to the quotes.
Yeah,
but I like when
very entertaining
when Red Alert crashes into a rock or something like that, and then Starscream slams into the wall after because first they get enveloped in Smokescreen's cloud, and then he scrambles their circuits, and Starscream's like, I made it out! Slams into the wall. Anyway, they both get stuck in this like half-transformed state. And I think that's kind of a neat little detail to throw in there for like, you know, kind of battle damage.
Yeah, there's also a... there's a lot in this episode, and the next one, actually, about Transformers physiology.
Yes.
Which is always my favorite time. Because they are not comparable to human physiology, even though that's the only context that we have for, you know, actually understanding, like, how does a Transformer's body work?
Yeah, because after this second battle for the Negavator, Optimus, you know, questions Red Alert. Is like, what's going on, man? You know, and then he's kind of freaking out. And then Hoist and Inferno come up, and Hoist says, your logic and reason circuits are fried. And then Inferno says, you need immediate repairs. And Red Alert's just like, you want to disassemble me for spare parts.
Yeah. And it's it feeds a lot into his character and stuff. But as far as like the physiology of the brain and how does the brain work for Autobots?
Yeah, can they talk about it almost like they could just open up his brain and fix whatever's malfunctioning, which is way more direct than, you know, mental health problems with like humans have, where you need either medicine or therapy. Yeah. Or is it, you know, because I think there are, I mean, I know in later series we see Transformers in therapy, and I feel like there's some episodes in Generation 1 where we see some
they also try to take Galvatron to a therapy center.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. That is a mind trip, that episode.
Which, out of all of the characters to take to therapy, where it's like you can be on the road to recovery and stuff, right. I think Galvatron is the furthest away from recovery. Like, he's closer to Arkham Asylum level.
Right. He's I can't wait to talk about that. That's gonna be a weird episode. I'm gonna have to actually do some research on like mental health for that one. I didn't do any like actual.
Is the it's not Tarn, but the place that they go to, is it psychologically sound?
Yeah. Maybe we should get like a Do you know that YouTube channel?
Cinema Therapy?
Yeah. We should get them to analyze that episode.
It's like, no, I don't think you should wrap your megalomaniacal terrorist leader in a sticky goo restraint.
Oh my goodness. That episode and this episode, we should like retrospectively like try to do a special where they analyze these two episodes or something. That'd be fun. Anyway. Where are we at? I've got a paragraph and then you've got a book.
Spare parts.
Yeah. And we know that they have spare parts because of Autobot X. So it could be possible that a broken Transformer could be partsed out, you know, like a car in a junkyard, you know. But we also see later that they entomb their dead, like in the one where they find Optimus's zombie.
They have a sarcophagus.
And then also the planet where they pick up the Rust Plague, I believe there's also some tombs on there too.
And Starscream's grave in Starscream's Ghost.
The Decepticon tombs, and then the in the movie
the Hall of Champions.
Yeah, the Hall of Champions. Which apparently in one of the draft scripts, the little fires are previous Decepticon sparks.
Which
doesn't get brought up
like
in anything.
The Combaticons as well.
Yeah. You know, there's also that. The Combaticons get put into a filing cabinet.
Right.
There's just so many weird things that they do with Transformers that are not comparable directly with human physiology. You know, I really like seeing them take full advantage of them being robots, because it does run the risk of alienating them from humans, but it does, you know, actually explore sci-fi topics. Yeah, you know,
because they are characters at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. But it's really cool when a show doesn't shy away from leaning into like the foreign aspect of them, and that they are kind of unknowable in some aspects.
Right. And speaking of the Combaticons, maybe Red Alert is afraid of a sort of Ship of Theseus situation where if they make too many changes to his brain, he won't be Red Alert anymore. Maybe that's why he doesn't want them to fix it.
Could be.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's part of the paranoia that he, you know... But like, what's causing that paranoia?
Right.
You know, how does this make you feel?
Yeah.
Tell me about your childhood, Red Alert.
Exactly.
I don't know.
They do.
Do they even have lobotomies? Like, because you could
I imagine
you could
so.
switch off parts of their brain and just completely.
Well, we also
alter
see
their...
Ratchet will switch off the vocal cords of
Right.
a patient and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
And
can
then-
you do that with someone's higher brain functions, or is it just is that forcing them into a coma or forcing them just into sleep?
Right. It's like with changing gears. You know, they took out the circuit card and completely changed his personality, but he was still Gears, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or was he? Anyway,
Yeah,
they say that. Anyway, they say Red Alert's circuits will explode if he keeps going crazy. Also, but apparently the null ray stabilizes his circuits, but after that, you know, skipping ahead a ways, looking ahead to some of the events later in the episode, he gets hit with the null ray and that stabilizes his circuits, but he still acts like he's crazy. Does he know that? Is he crazy, or is he just acting that way? Right?
And it could be that he is well, now it's all out in the open, so I don't really have anything to they've all turned against me, so devil may care, to heck with it all, sort of thing.
Right. But I like how infuriating the patronizing of him. It sounds like when they're trying to talk to, we want to help you. Red Alert, we're your friends. I like how patronizing that it sounds because we're probably hearing it through Red Alert's perspective.
Yeah, the more the episode builds up, the more paranoid he gets.
Yeah,
the
he gets more crazy.
It feels like you're kind of seeing them through his eyes.
Yeah.
In this kind of aggravated state. But yeah,
But we finished my paragraph, so let's move on to your book. Your book that you wrote here.
So
in the notes.
Again, take everything that we say here as regarding mental health with a grain of salt.
2 grains of salt.
A small handful of salt.
Neither of us are
What?
Psychologists or even medical in any way.
Yeah, and
I can put a bandage on somebody.
Yeah.
That's about
everything we say here, please take with a large handful of salt. But Red Alert is a character that, revisiting this episode, I actually really, really relate to in a lot of ways, just off of his... sort of paranoia thing. But it's interesting because, every time that he has this sort of sensor thing, it's signified by the blue lights that show up on his head that kind of spark and fizz. Mm-hmm. And it happens before he gets injured in the explosion.
Yes.
And he goes, Decepticons are here, like that.
Right.
This makes me think it's some sort of pre-existing condition that's like a spider sense, where it's just extra sensory perception that he's able to pick up on signals. And I don't think it's really even though most of the Autobots have power chip equivalent things, Hound has holograms, Mirage has invisibility, I don't think this is actually a power per se.
Yeah, I read through his profile in the Transformers universe, the guidebook from the 80s. Mm-hmm. And basically it just mentions him being paranoid. It doesn't mention it as a power or something.
Yeah. But because it flared up like that before he got injured, and then after he got injured, it was pinging like crazy. And then it's only after that he's really super duper paranoid. But I think that it's a pre-existing brain condition for him, and that it seems to be overactive logic circuits, and they mention your logic circuits are about to get fried and stuff. Right. But I think this could potentially be, and again, I don't think it's a direct analog, but he's slightly neurodivergent, is that his brain just operates differently than other people.
Yeah.
And he is able to perceive his surroundings completely different than all of the other Autobots. And it's useful because he's able to sense things basically before they happen. And that makes sense why they would put him in the position of security director. And because he's able to see things, he's able to sense things before they happen. You need someone like that in a security position.
Yeah.
But I think it also leads to him being paranoid. And I don't really think he's super paranoid beforehand, before this sort of injury. But probably it feeds into a lot of his like insecurities and doubts about himself, is that he fears that the other Autobots accept him. The other Autobots, they accept him for who he is. And not because of his quirks or in spite of his quirks, but for who he legitimately is.
Right, because Inferno's like his best friend.
Yeah. Inferno's his ride or die best friend.
Right. And even though in this episode Red Alert, is basically just using him for cover a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I think it's that, well, one, it's cool to see Grapple and Hoist in this episode as well.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a parallel between those two pairings. Like, Inferno and Red Alert are kind of very similar to Grapple and Hoist's, like, friendship dynamic.
Right.
And, like, Hoist understands Grapple. Hoist understands where Grapple's coming from, like, how he thinks and everything, all of the pressure he puts on himself.
Right.
Inferno is that to Red Alert.
Yeah. And it's funny because Inferno and Grapple are mold mates. They both have the same body.
Yeah,
the same
it could be
type
that
of
Grapple.
body.
Yeah, they're like brothers. But we see that the Autobots, they accept him because it's not just Inferno who's like, guys, he's totally fine. While Red Alert's just like bugging out or something.
Right. It's like Hoist and several others mention him too.
Yeah, when Red Alert storms out and blames Inferno, Hoist's reaction, where he's like, "Oh, he's just like that, Red," like that.
Yeah.
It's telling because it's not just Inferno who sees the good in Red Alert; it's the other Autobots as well.
Right.
So, despite this, Red Alert still can't shake the feeling that they see him as different or damaged in some way, that he's like lesser because of how he sees the world. And we see that through his dialogue in a lot of the episode where he says, like, I know just how you want to fix me, when they're all trying to, like, no, you're seriously injured. Like, we need to, you need help. But he's afraid that their acceptance is conditional on him measuring up to, like, being normal. And, you see that with, like, all of his rants about, like, they never trusted me, and, I don't deserve to be an Autobot, when he's like, at his lowest. So, where does he get his, like, assurance from? And it's from stability. Like, his job. That's what... His job, and Inferno being his companion and always being there for him and understanding how he does things.
Mm-hmm.
But when he gets damaged, it dials up everything that's normally, like, hidden, or he has a good,
grip on
it. It dials everything up to 11.
Right.
That he feels abandoned, betrayed, and misunderstood by everyone around him. Mm-hmm. Especially with very poorly timed, like, unfortunate timing on, phrasing and everything. Is that Prime saying, "Oh, wow, you're more damaged than I thought." That instantly cuts into his insecurity of, like, I'm not damaged. I'm more than capable. And, and I also love that this whole situation comes about as, like, he's not really a fighter. He's more of a, he's a security director. He's just doing his job. And he's more of, like, an unfortunate casualty of carelessness brought about by war.
Yeah.
Because Inferno is, he goes in because it's like, hey, my friends need help. Just this one time, I'll leave you to do this thing.
Yeah.
And it's the one time that he leaves that something bad happens.
Right.
It's just unfortunate.
However,
Yeah.
if he didn't leave, Optimus and presumably the Matrix, but we don't know when he's got the Matrix and when Roller's got the Matrix, would be vaporized.
True. But, Inferno's doing his duty.
Right.
And he is a loyal friend, but he's also a soldier and a fighter.
Yeah. He feels like he's being held back. This also, we get a little bit of look at Inferno, because he, wanting to get out there and fight, when Red Alert's like, no, stay here, I need you to protect my back,
Yeah.
because for some reason my back is to the door,
Right.
that, Paul
Just an open corridor all the way to him.
The Atreides would be very disappointed. No, it's, which one's, is it Gurney Halleck, or is it,
I think it's Gurney Halleck who's training him in the sword fighting.
Training him in the sword fight, and he says, "Why are you sitting with your back to the door? I told you never to do that."
Yes.
Anyway, because that missile goes straight down the hall and straight into his back. But Inferno's like, "Not again! I want to fight."
Yeah. I love also the fact that he's a firefighter. Like, he literally, he embodies the going into the flames instead of running away from the flames
mentality. Which we'll see again at the end of the episode.
Yeah, too. And it's cool that it's like, I want to get into the fight.
Right.
But yeah, like Starscream
Yeah.
manipulating Red Alert's like insecurities and stuff like that, like, it's mostly the I understand you, like, I accept you sort of thing.
Right.
And we've seen that before. It's a tactic that all Decepticons
Megatron
use.
used it with Autobot X.
Yeah.
Autobot Spike. Or Spike as a Frankenstein machine. You know what I mean?
A monster.
But yeah, I like that Starscream is actually doing the Decepticon thing.
Right. And
but although Scream probably actually believes the part about Megatron wants to get rid of me and I'm better than Megatron and all that stuff.
I think that's why they pair them up. It feels like a weak pairing at first, but then you think about it and it's like, well, Red Alert's insecurity is that they want my job.
Right.
Because that's the only stable thing that I have, and if his fear is that, well, they'll replace me for someone who can do it better.
Right.
And Starscream, I guess, ties into that with like, I want someone else's job. So.
Right.
But yeah, the whole manipulation thing, it's pretty textbook, the way it plays out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that Inferno is a firefighter, is that he always wants to go into the fire, not away from it. And that's not just like combat as well. That's also when a friend is in crisis.
Yeah.
And he's loyal to Red Alert and understanding. He's not a fair weather friend.
Right.
And even like, even though Red Alert blames him personally, where it's like, you abandoned me, you betrayed me, sort of thing. Even though it's not even his fault. Like, it happened because he wasn't there.
Yeah.
But it's not his fault that Red Alert got hurt.
Right.
And he has no reason to blame himself. And yet, even so, he still goes back for Red Alert.
Yeah.
And is completely understanding. He does not hold any of his legit traitor streak against him, because it's literally a dude in a mental health crisis. Like, you're not going to hold that against him.
Right.
So, it's such a good line.
That does bring up a question of, like, at what, where is the line of responsibility and out of control, right?
Yeah.
And at some point, under the influence of Starscream and being, out of control, they can't hold Red Alert too responsible at some points.
And you see that with like when he's,
if he had done that before all of his circuits had gotten fried, then you could hold him responsible for it. But after a certain point, and even so, there are certain things that he could have taken that he can take responsibility for, but he made good on it in the end by destroying the Negavator and all that.
And like you see that through Red Alert. There is genuine regret for what he's done. Right. Because
that's another thing. It's like, does he actually regret it? Because
he says like, I don't deserve to be an Autobot sort of thing, and it's like, he's more than...
Because some of the things that he does while he's under the influence of Starscream, he has to have enough mental awareness to be able to do those things.
Right.
Like,
it takes a good amount of mental faculty.
Yeah. But then, also at the same time, there are some things, just being persuaded by Starscream and stuff, like, he's more susceptible to that because of... It is a very interesting thing, like, in a courtroom setting, how would they judge Red Alert's case,
right.
And once again, we're not legal professionals either, so we can't really make judgments on that.
In the context of the Transformers cartoon.
In the well, we're going to talk about legal cases coming up, so in the context of the Transformers cartoon, it could go any way very fast, but I know that in real life, there are actual concerns legally about how much responsibility do people with mental health problems have.
Exactly.
And that takes a lot of understanding and investigation to find out.
Yeah. And also, like, I do like that Optimus also admits where he was in the wrong. Of like, I pushed the situation further than it needed to go.
Right. And how much are the people around him responsible for, what happened?
Again, that's why I like it. It feels nuanced in that it really wasn't any one person's fault for what happened to Red Alert. It was just a really unfortunate situation that unfolded because of lack of intentionality and care. And, it's them also just being like, hey, we're here for each other.
Yeah, because it maybe, if they had checked up on Red Alert before this episode, then they could have, when he was still in a decent enough state of mind to accept help, they could have prevented some of this.
Yeah, and if they had a dedicated therapist on hand to hey, Red, what are your insecurities and stuff? It's like, that someone's going to take my job. And it's like, let's talk about that and let you know that, hey, nobody's gonna steal your job. Right.
You're literally built well enough to do specifically this job. I was looking through his profile again, and it mentions basically he becomes paranoid because he has so many sensor arrays. He can like detect all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
And he's plugged into a lot of security systems all the time. He even has like trouble sensors on each of the Autobots, which is interesting. And he also, but because of all of this, it can overload him sometimes because he's taking in too much information at once.
Which is really interesting. He basically has like the Batman like sonar sense from The Dark Knight, where he's just like tapped into every single
right. It's something along that lines. Yeah. And I also really like that Inferno redeems himself in a nice way at the end when Red is at his lowest, and he's, he didn't get to rescue Red Alert at the beginning of the episode, so he gets a second chance at the end of the episode, and Red Alert is like, leave me, I'm not worthy, but Inferno does not say anything. He just rescues him. He stops the falling debris, he gets him out of there, he carries him out, and just a really nice, touching, friend,
what are friends for?
What are friends for? Yeah, he says, what are friends for? And Red Alert's like, with friends like these...
who needs enemies?
Well, something like that. I got the actual quote in the quote, so we'll get to that later. But now... I don't usually... We were talking about nuance and stuff, and I usually do not ever go in for reading gay subtext into friendships in media.
Right.
Especially when the power of friendship is the main focus of the story.
Yeah.
There's been a few times where I've watched this episode and I've wondered if there's some subtext in this episode, though.
I mean,
even though we know that
he carries him out, like
the way they just look longingly into each other's eyes, and
it's like,
and it's especially the way that they talk, and it's not just this episode; it's the way they talk to each other in every episode. They bicker like a married couple, even though we know that Inferno has a girlfriend, Firestar, I believe.
Yes. She starts fires and he puts them out.
Exactly. But, their friendship is a really good friendship, like Grapple and Hoist. But every so often there's just the slightest hint that there might be something else there.
Yeah.
and that's coming from somebody who does not like to read that sort of thing into
Right.
friendship, because I think that it takes away from the actual storyline of the power of friendship.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like again, you could probably read that if you were looking for it into
Right.
the grapple and hoist dynamic.
Yeah,
But
I don't think so. You know, it's not.
That's my thing, is that like
Yeah.
I don't see that
Right.
with grapple and
Some
hoist.
people will try to read it, but I don't think it's actually there.
Yeah,
With the
grapple and hoist are less likely
they're
than
just
Red Alert and
friends,
Inferno.
you know? They are just friends. You know?
Yeah.
But I don't know about Red Alert and Inferno. You know, it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
5 feet apart because they're not gay.
Yeah. Two fire rescue vehicles sitting in a
garage.
In a garage, 5 bays apart because they're not gay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
anyway,
all in all,
all in all, pretty good episode.
Yes, a lot of nuance.
Yeah. I am going to mention a few other things though, real quick. Just speed through these notes. When they are taking the Negavator away from the base, and they get caught in the canyon, and then they take it to a different base, or is that the same base because it has the same hole blown in it that is there for multiple shots, so it's not just an animation
that's
error.
a consistent thing.
So did they take it into the canyon and then take it back to the same base? Where were they taking it in the first place? But Optimus acts like, you know, we're taking it to level 9, you know, this is where it was meant to be locked up, right? And speaking of the dungeon, the tunnel drone is an Avengers level threat.
Yes.
Who needs the Negavator when you have this thing?
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
And it weirdly enough reminds me of
It reminds me of the Dweller.
Yes.
From, you know, we've said this before with the evil car crusher from the Western episode, the
Right.
Transfixatron episode, but
is it tapping into that mythological like
Dweller
that archetype?
Yeah, that sort of collective unconscious of the Dweller, you know, in all the Transformers that I theory about. And we'll talk more about that when we get to the Dweller episode.
Yeah.
But it also reminds me of a scene in Labyrinth where there's like this tunnel dungeon cleaner that comes through, and they jump out of the way, and there's just a couple little Muppets, you know, piloting the Labyrinth, the Jim Henson movie with David Bowie in it, you know.
Yeah.
For anybody who didn't know what I was talking about, but yeah, there's a machine kind of.
Look it
like
up,
that.
it's good.
Yeah, it is. But also, Red Alert is just a genius to use the Negavator to just shoot his way out of the base.
Yeah, if you have a WMD that you are trapped in the room with, use it to get out of the room.
Right. But also that instant Starscream attack on Red Alert, that cut is just great. That animation is fantastic. There's a lot of good fights in this episode overall.
Yeah, this one, well, more Microbots than anything else, but this one has good animation, but Microbots has
Microbots
thrilling animation.
Oh yeah, we'll talk a little more about that after the break. Microbots. Oh, and we're back from break.
Hey.
Microbots. When unfortunately nothing to do with Micromasters.
The actual Microbots.
Yeah, the Micromasters only get an animation through commercials.
Yeah.
Anyway, when archaeologists uncover the original Decepticon ship, Megatron extracts a power amplifier called the Heart of Cybertron from it and wreaks havoc on the Autobots, seriously wounding many. Perceptor shrinks himself, Brawn, and Bumblebee, and they sneak inside Megatron to disconnect the device while Optimus shields the base from the overpowered Decepticon. They get it out, and it is destroyed.
Purple hair.
Yes. Why that archaeologist said. All right, this brings up a question of like when in cartoons, you know, because this can also go for like anime and stuff. When in cartoons do like a hair color like purple, are they representing a shade
it interpretive
of
or is
black hair, or is it like is it literally purple hair?
Yeah, because this isn't the only
Because this is
set
like
of purple
light,
hair.
like lavender hair.
Yeah.
Right. So
this
is probably
fuchsia hair.
Yeah. So the most it could be interpretive of would be like gray hair or something.
Maybe.
Or it's actually dyed lavender.
It's also the 80s.
Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah, it's very jarring,
Yeah.
to say the least.
Also, those don't really look like the usual Mayan ruins that they that you usually see in pictures. But I'm no expert, so there could also be in. They look more like the Pueblo, sort of carved into the earth that you see in like New Mexico and stuff like that. And not to say that Mayans didn't have housing like that, but usually you see like the big Mayan temples with stuff and whatnot.
Yeah, the funny thing is that in shows like this, there's a big difference between actual ruins and cartoon ruins.
Well, yeah.
Because a lot of times they'll say like Mayan ruins and then show something that's from like Aztec or like Indonesian or something like that. It's like jungle ruins are more of just a wildly abstract zone that things happen in.
True. Do you think that they knew there was a spaceship under that hill, or do you think that it just happened to be the same hill that they were
probably just so happened to be like, here's a high enough spot, like,
because I would love to think that they were like started to carve into the hill and then busted out a window in the Decepticon ship and were like, hang on, we can like just use this entire hill.
Yeah.
Like they could get inside the Decepticon ship and like
there is potential for a Transformer Cybertron style Atlantis sort of civilization for ruins like these.
Right.
This episode's not at all concerned with it.
Right, true. Which Megatron says that it's their old ship, which kind of lines up with
I hate stuff like this because it's always having to consider, is this connected to Beast Wars at all?
Well, it is. If you remember in the final episodes of Beast Wars, Predacon Megatron brings up the Decepticon ship that they came from Cybertron to Earth on, and that got flung away when they all crashed on the Ark into the volcano, right?
Okay.
He finds it under the water, right?
Yes.
Brings up the ship, attacks the Ark, and then the Maximals defeat him, and the ship goes and crashes somewhere over the horizon.
Yeah.
Now, they say it's in South America. However, the Mayan Empire was mostly in Central America.
Yes.
As far as
it's in like the
non-expert
Gulf of Mexico adjacent region.
Right. Which actually does put it a little bit closer to where the Ark is supposed to be, allegedly, for it to fly over the horizon and crash in Beast Wars.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. The heart of Cybertron.
What the heck is this thing?
Is there only one? Is this actually from, like, within the heart of Cybertron, and the Decepticons used it in their ship, which gets called the Nemesis in Beast Wars, so retroactively it's called the Nemesis here, and I will continue to refer to it as the Nemesis for simplicity. The ship that they are in under the water in Generation 1 is called the Victory. It's not brought up in the show, but I happen to know that.
There's so many purple ships crash landed on this planet.
Anyway, all right, so... their undersea base in Generation 1 is the Victory. This one is the Nemesis that is under this hill.
Gotcha.
Presumably, we could get into semantics and say this is a different Decepticon ship, possibly the one that the Insecticons came from.
True.
However, I want to believe that it is the Nemesis just for simplicity's sake. Which brings up the question. Is this the only heart of Cybertron? Or if this is not the Nemesis, is every Decepticon ship equipped with a heart of Cybertron? Power amplifier, which, where is it? They call a tiny energy maximizer. Megatron refers to it.
It takes energy and maximizes the output that it could possibly have, I guess.
Yeah. He says that
also, weirdly
it powered
enough,
their
looks
ship
like
from
a
Cybertron.
crystal from the Chaos Creature.
Yes, it's another green crystal. What is it with green crystals and Transformers? The Earth has 2 green crystals. One in the Peru, or they in Peru?
Yes, Peru.
In Fire on the Mountain.
Fire on the Mountain.
Yeah. And then also in Skyfire's other episode.
The Antarctica.
Why is it? Yeah, no, it's in the Arctic.
The Arctic's Earth.
Yeah. Why is it Skyfire in this episode? It would be funny if he showed up every time that a green crystal
I
showed
want
up.
Skyfire to, because he's a scientist.
Yeah.
To be the green crystal expert of the group.
All right, if I ever write anything Transformers, that's gonna be my thing for Skyfire.
He has pedigree.
Anyway, yeah. So all of that aside, anything else you want to talk about that?
The Heart of Cybertron.
Yeah. In recap, this is their original spaceship. It's called the Nemesis. It's the Heart of Cybertron. Powers their ship. Possibly other exist out there. Possibly not.
Is this energon, or is it a prism that reflects energy?
I think that, well, they say later that it's going to overpower and explode. It seems like it gives Megatron a power boost, but it may just be because he calls it an energy maximizer. So I think that when they plug it into anything, it just takes the normal energy output and multiplies it.
Okay.
So I don't think that it's actually has that much energy itself. But when you flow so much energy through it, like Megatron does in such a small contained weapon as Megatron, I mean small compared to the spaceship, that's when it overheats and could explode.
Okay.
So it just starts absorbing energy instead of maximizing it. And that's why it's going to explode at the end.
Yeah. I'm willing to believe that. Again, this episode isn't concerned at all with that, other than
it's not concerned with details.
Make Megatron more powerful.
It's concerned with two things. Brawn being a jerk to Perceptor, and really, really good animation for some reason.
Why is it so good?
Yeah, this episode has some of the best animation in season 2.
I don't understand. There's literally one shot of, I think it's Beachcomber, getting shot, and it's like the most elegant crash I've seen.
Yeah. The one where he's running down the hill. Yeah, who is that? I think it's Ratchet, actually. It might be Beachcomber. Anyway, yeah.
Nondescript Autobot gets shot and like spins out, and it's smooth.
There are so many like action shots where people are driving and they get shot and blown up, or they're jumping down a cliff, sliding down, shooting at something, and it's just smooth.
This is just the Toei thumbprint on this is incredible.
It's not and it's not one of those things where you sacrifice detail for movement, too, because every shot that's super well animated.
Glossy.
It's also really detailed and, like, on model.
Crisp.
Crisp. And, like, this is stuff that you'd see in, like, the movie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what's going on here behind the scenes, but this episode got some special attention.
Exactly.
Anyway. Yeah, so let's talk about Perceptor and Brawn.
Yeah, I do like that. I guess this is a spotlight episode for Perceptor, his first one.
Yeah. Is this the first time he shows up? No.
He shows up in
Dinobot Island, right?
Yeah, Dinobot Island, and also I believe Attack of the Autobots as well. But I'm not sure.
No, Attack of the Autobots is one of those season 1.5
That's
episodes.
right. Okay. Anyway, Perceptor. I like that he's always very cool, calm, and collected in the face of...
Yeah, he always returns all of the abuse with just a calm response.
Yes, he's very clinical, and he's not emotionless either. He's just professional.
Yeah.
And Brawn, I don't really know if this is like character assassination or anything, but he's
I consider it
incredibly mean.
Yeah, this is like... You know, the threads were there for Cliffjumper to attack Mirage the way he did in the Traitor episode. Oh, that's another episode that has really good animated sequences.
Yeah.
It's the Traitor episode. Yeah, this kind of falls into that batch, I guess. Whatever group of animators was assigned this batch of episodes must have been Traitor and this one and a couple other ones. Yeah. Whereas Cliffjumper had precedent to kind of go over the top. I really consider this kind of character assassination on Brawn.
Yeah, it also kind of... I guess you could read it as well as that, like, he's just giving him a hard time because he just doesn't like the scientific type. It's not really personal or anything.
This is just that tired old trope of the jock versus nerds. The jock learns to appreciate the nerd plotline that I guess was probably pretty popular in the 80s.
Granted, it is entertaining.
It is entertaining. Like we've talked about, storytelling zeitgeist. There's there's certain plots that you can always use and it's always going to work.
Yeah.
You know, and it does work. It's just, why is Braun so mean in this episode? He's not this way in any other
It's
episode.
unreasonable, but it is funny. I do think it's given a good balance though with having B.
Yeah, B to the rescue.
Yeah, he's like the mediator between
Yeah,
the
yeah,
two.
yeah,
Fulfilling his little brother archetype.
Yeah, but when Prime calls Perceptor to go, it does sound like Perceptor's making excuses. The way he's like, "Oh, I've got too much to do here."
Yeah.
But before that, Perceptor always had cool comebacks.
Yeah, it might have worked a little bit if Perceptor had a few more like flaws to him, because he's completely untouchable in this.
Yeah,
Because he does everything by he's squeaky clean. Like
he's not just a nerd. He's a cool nerd.
yeah, he's cool, which is neat.
And he's also always right, apparently.
Yeah.
Even if there's a few times where he can't, there's a few times where Braun has to save him and he scoffs at him for that. But, overall, like, Perceptor kind of...
He's pretty capable.
He's pretty capable for most everything. And also, he just has a shrink ray.
Yes. Why is this a normal thing?
Yeah.
And also, why does he conveniently have a bot-sized one?
Right.
Just in the other room.
just in case he needs to get really tiny. Maybe it has something to do with, like Perceptor and Soundwave when they shrink when they transform,
Maybe.
Maybe it's something to do with that sort of technology.
That could be like they just have that plugged into themselves at all time.
But maybe he used that on some snakes in the in the jungle.
Yeah. Holy moly. That python is huge.
Yeah. Starscream has a boa made of a boa.
Yeah.
My wife was pretty amused by the giant snake and
it's massive.
And
it
also
is bigger than the cockpit. The jaws on that thing.
I know they can
Holy
get big,
smokes.
This is like Jurassic Park levels of huge.
Anaconda. Like
yeah. But yeah, my wife was amused by the giant snake and Ravage versus the leopard.
Yes.
Also,
always entertaining when Transformers have to contend with the Earth wildlife.
Also a nice continuation of Scavenger sniffing things with his scoop.
So
I love that.
A little sniff, sniff, sniff.
He's actually making a sniffing noise too.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Again, I do like the idea of Transformers having non-humanoid functions and stuff. Yeah. Like, and you see that in like Transformers Robots in Disguise 2015 with Transformers that turn into non-human shapes and stuff.
Right. Although some of them are just Transformer furries.
Yeah, basically.
But
it's like, it is
no. That was actually something that I liked about one thing that I do like about the live action movies is that they were willing to experiment with Transformer body types.
Yes.
You got some weird ones out there that are like
multi-armed freaks.
It's something that we hadn't seen since since Generation 1 with characters like, Ravage and Skylynx and stuff like that.
And you have unique instances like some of the ones that show up in like Dark of the Moon and stuff like that. Yeah. It comes at the cost of them not being actual characters and more just being slobbering messes.
Or that one that has the two wheels.
Yes,
I think that's
Devastator. Demolisher.
Demolisher, yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
Devastator's pretty interesting.
Very cool, but also then you have characters like Nitro Zeus. Characters in loose air quotes.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Microbots.
Yes. Megatron powered up by the heart of Cybertron. I like that he's just wielding Sith lightning.
Yes.
And using it a lot. Just a steady stream of just...
Yeah. And we've already touched on Battle Seed has really good animation and stuff. And I like how Optimus tells Perceptor to do a strategic repair of Autobots. Repair.
Hey, I need this guy.
Repair,
I need that guy.
Ratchet and Wheeljack first, so that Wheeljack can build a shield and Ratchet can repair the other Autobots.
Yes.
Also, I like the shoebox that they put when they shrink down. They put them in a
random shoebox. What is it used for? I imagine that's just like a toolbox or something, but still,
maybe. Yeah.
It's funny looking.
Yeah, and then they just Powerglide launching that.
Also, very funny that they put it in like his thruster.
Yeah, shouldn't that be his engine? Or one of it?
It's like, no, it's just a shelf.
The Warthog, the engines are on the back, you know.
Yeah.
So those would be like something else, but they do look like they'd be some sort of jet engine thing also.
Exactly. Probably the highlight and what most people remember this episode for, drunk Decepticons.
Love it. Love it. It doesn't make any sense, but I love it.
Yeah, it is the first time, though, that we've seen anything like this. Over-energized inebriation.
Right. Powerglide calls it being over-energized, but they actually drink out of the cubes, which is very interesting because we usually see, like, you know, they have to hook up the cubes to themselves or something like that. Or we just don't see how the cubes are used. But in this instance, they're actually drinking Energon as a liquid, which we wouldn't, you know... In Beast Wars, it's crystals. In Transformers Energon, it's an ore, but it's also a liquid sometimes.
Yeah.
This and then much later on, we see it commonly as a liquid.
Right.
But it's very interesting that we see it here as a liquid because we don't really know what's in those cubes most of the time.
Yeah, it's just pure distilled, like purified energy.
Right.
But this also brings up like the question of Insecticon physiology compared to Decepticon physiology.
Yeah.
All of the like eating and everything.
Right.
And that Insecticons seem to have extremely efficient guts.
Right.
But I don't think that this brings up that like maybe Decepticons are also capable of that.
Yeah.
Just it'd be like if we tried to eat raw meat just like right off of the bat. It's
Well,
like you're gonna get worms and you're gonna not have a good time.
Well, I think it's more like the Insecticons eat raw meat and turn it into energy, whereas the Decepticons they put the meat into a blender and make it into a smoothie, and then they cook that smoothie and turn it into a concentrate, and then they just take that concentrate and inject it into their... Normally they inject it into their veins, but in this instance they're drinking it.
Yeah, and like I think
which there actually used to be, I found this out from a different podcast, there's a meat concentrate called Bovril.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Or it used to be a thing. I don't know if it's still a thing.
What a horrid name.
Yeah. That was in a Lord of the Rings podcast. They were talking about the origins of Mithril.
Neat.
Anyway, you could cut that out too if you want.
But it does make me think that I think they've mentioned it a couple times in different places, but that Transformers are capable of consuming matter through, you know, like digestion.
Yeah. But
they just find it disgusting. And
I think you're confusing that with Bionicle. The Paraka can eat things with their mouths, but the Matoran consider that disgusting.
That's exactly what I'm thinking of. Never mind. Regardless, I do think that, like, it's probably something that Transformers are capable of. That's just the preferred, like, energy transference method.
Right.
And that
and especially on a resource scarce planet like Cybertron, which is basically just a metal husk by the time that the show starts. It's probably the only way that they're able to get energy anyway is through the concentrate.
Right. And you know, it's the difference between like having a 5-star buffet and getting your nutrients through an IV or something like that.
Yeah.
But still very entertaining to see drunk Decepticons.
Yeah. I love Megatron once again is celebrating victory before he has it.
Yes.
Which we've seen in previous episodes, and is
very in character.
Very in character, and very much a downfall for him, as usual, because now we got little tiny guys going inside him.
Yes.
And what do we see inside him?
It's a very interesting, abstract, like, interior space. Like, you never really get a good sense of where you are in his body.
And I think that's on purpose, too.
Yeah.
because like he said there are parts where he'll say like, oh, I think we're in his shoulder right now, but it doesn't look quite like, you know, like what is that thing, why is it moving like that?
Yeah,
you know? You would think that they put some more detail into like, oh well, this gear obviously he has that, you know, will move his shoulder, and you know, think through how these things work. But sometimes there's just stuff in there that it's like, why does that move the way it does?
Yeah.
You know? Like, is that part of the transformation? Is it, you know, because that's another thing is you got to think about, well, how do all these parts shift around during his transformation?
Yeah. But it is interesting how like the shapes and like the, for lack of better terms, the interior decor of Megatron's innards.
Yeah.
It is like design-wise pretty consistent with what we see inside Unicron's physiology in the movie.
In some aspects, yes.
Yeah, it's like the
Not
shapes and stuff are
entirely,
kind of
but,
similar, like the like rounded, curved, like sharp edges and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And they get to his brain.
Spikes and the interior, the electrosanitizers.
Yes.
Are similar to those like claws that come out of the walls and stuff.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
cool that there's like at least a design similarity there.
Right. But there's also a disparity enough to where you see, well, this is a Cybertronian on the inside, and then Unicron still feels alien.
Yeah.
You know, because like in Armada, where he's like kind of techno-organic, this monstrosity,
Yeah.
you know?
He's got like flesh tunnels inside him, and it's like,
creepy in
ugh.
Armada. Yeah, he's creepy in Armada. Yeah, but in the movie, you know, there is a slight organicness to him, and we'll talk more about that when we get to it.
Yeah.
But there's
It's
still
metal
mechanical,
taking the form of
there's still
organic
enough
shapes.
mechanical stuff, and then there is a similarity in here, and then there's evil brain impulses inside Megatron.
What does this mean in the grand scheme of things?
Okay,
Does he just have an evil nervous system juice, like,
well,
pushing him to be evil?
if I recall, in Five Faces of Darkness, it is insinuated, if not outright stated, that he is constructed to be the most evil Decepticon ever.
And it's so funny because it's like brain impulses. Oh, you think they're like a little, you know, like electrical signal.
You would
going
think that
like
it would be an electrical signal that goes along a wire to whatever part of his body. But here, he's got Wi-Fi inside his body. This is
Yes.
an electrical signal that manifests itself as a physical object, as an evil snake that flies through his body to whatever part.
And the
with
face,
an evil face on it.
the face vaguely looks like a Decepticon
Yeah.
symbol too. It's just like diabolical.
Diabolical. I love
Everything about this
love
is
Generation 1. It's so funny.
pure goofiness.
Yeah. And when he breaks, Brawn breaks one of them at one point. They also have like their own sentience because like one of them tries to like strangle Bumblebee,
Yeah.
I think, or
That's
maybe
why
it's
they're
Perceptor. yeah. And then Brawn breaks one of them. Is that just like a brain fart moment for Megatron? Like, what was I doing?
It's just like, oh
yeah.
jeez.
Or is that like when you like just muscle twitch for no reason?
Yeah. Like, oh, spaz.
Once again, you know, Transformer physiology does not perfectly match human physiology.
Yes.
But then again, most of the time, except in the Magic School Bus, we don't have tiny little people going inside.
Right, again,
us.
the Magic School Bus is abstracted as well, so,
Right.
you know.
I mean, I guess, you know, they say the brain, you know, does have electrical signals that bzz, bzz, bzz all over it.
yeah, it is,
you know.
like,
But, you know,
electrically
it has
charged.
to run along a nerve to get to
Which
whatever
technically
part of...
the brain impulses do in this.
Maybe they're just inside
they
the
float
nerves.
above the track that they're
Yeah,
like
you're
disconnecting.
right. Yeah.
Also, they're causing permanent brain damage to Megatron when they're just like ripping apart the signals.
Well, I think that they're just disconnecting the heart, because Brawn does say, "Hey, let's bash his brain," and which, by the way, Megatron's brain looks kind of like a laser core.
A little bit, but also
it could
like
be a laser core.
it
you
also
know?
looks like Unicron's brain, but not with the TVs.
the TV brain.
I don't know. It's so weird.
we finally get a look, a detailed look inside a Transformer, and it don't make no gosh darn sense.
Exactly. I would expect nothing less from Generation 1 as well.
I love it.
But
Hey, where's the Matrix? Wait, this is Megatron.
It's the evil Matrix.
The evil Matrix. No, that
The Matrix of Chaos or something. I think that's an actual thing, though, isn't it?
Yes, I can't remember if that's in. No, that's not Generation 1. That's a different series.
Yeah. It's been a concept at some point.
Yeah.
It's like, what if the Matrix, but like goth?
Yeah.
Goth
anyway.
bling.
Yep.
The force field.
Oh, no, before we move on. If they do size up, Perceptor says that it's going to wear off eventually.
Yes.
Right? If they do size up inside Megatron, is that just going to kill them? Or is that are they going to burst out of Megatron chest burster style?
Yeah.
You know?
My brain says that, but I can also see it being the reverse of like they hit a point in the wall where they just like fold in on themselves and they don't have the same mass that they did.
Yeah.
Because they obviously, the way they run around and stuff, they don't have like the same weight.
And then Megatron just has to open his chest and be like, I have some compacted cubes in here.
Yeah.
Because when he dumps those the antimatter cubes, they just pop out of these empty cavities in his chest, right? So like maybe he just compacts Autobots in his pecs.
Yeah.
This is some Akira level of body horror going on here. I'm sorry. Anyway. The force field.
It's really cool how it like shatters like glass.
Oh, I love that. I love that effect.
Design.
We saw it in Atlantis Arise. It looks great here. But why? I don't know if this is an animation thing or actually Optimus's plan. That shield is only big enough to hide 3 people. It doesn't even cover the base. Why do they even need the shield?
Exactly.
Now, maybe they're just trying to draw off the Decepticons, or Megatron in particular, give him a target to attack to give Perceptor and Brawn and Bumblebee more time. But
yeah,
I don't know. It just kind of comes off.
It's kind of an artificial like time limit for tension's sake. Tension's sake.
Oh, what's funny is, once again, I have to time it. They said it can only last for about 5 minutes. I don't know if they started it before we see it on screen, but it's only on screen for about 1 minute and 15 seconds.
That could be one, they didn't have enough time to make it strong. 2, Megatron's just that overpowered at this point. Right.
But they said it would last for 5 minutes against his power.
Yeah.
Apparently Wheeljack was just wrong.
It's like, hey, he's overcharging. So, but they get it out of him, and
dang, Brawn has an arm.
Yeah.
He throws the Heart of Cybertron 2,000 miles.
This felt like a callback to the Extinction level event. What is it called? The episode right after Ultimate Doom.
Countdown to Extinction.
Yeah. This feels
where
like
they shoot the energy egg, the exponential generator.
Yeah, it feels like a Countdown to Extinction callback of them,
yeah.
Having to team up to chuck something into the upper atmosphere and then shoot it.
Yeah. I like that idea. Just throw it into space and blow it up. Just instead of trying to find out like, oh, we need to get it away from the city in time, just throw it.
Superman does it all the time. I do think this is probably the only thing that could inform whether Perceptor is a sniper in the IDW continuity.
Oh yeah, because
it is a cool.
He snipes the Heart of Cybertron.
Yeah, and I do like that he's in microscope mode to do it. Makes him feel like a cannon.
Yeah. Well, he has a third alt mode that is never used in the show, where you can turn around his like microscope deck to become treads, and then the microscope thing becomes a cannon. So he does actually turn into a tank, sort of. But instead of using that, they just make his microscope mode just move, just fly around for some reason. That's a different episode, though. So in Transformers Universe, I'm looking at Perceptor's profile, and it says that his microscope mode, his turret thing, it can blast a hole in a cinder block wall 2,000 miles away with pinpoint accuracy.
Holy smokes.
So that's actually a really neat bit of continuity between character profile and the show, because he says that Brawn threw the heart of Cybertron 2,000 miles away,
which is
his range for shooting it.
He waited to the very last minute,
Yeah.
too. That's insane. What the heck?
Well, it says that he can blast a hole in a cinder block wall, which implies that it would go through the cinder block wall.
Yeah.
So if the cinder block wall is 2,000 miles away and he can shoot through it, then he can shoot either over 2,000 miles or, I don't know, 2,001 miles.
2,000 miles optimal range.
But it's really neat that that there's that consistency between the profiles and the show.
You see that?
There's also apparently go to TF Wiki. I'm not gonna get into what it is, but there's apparently also in his readout display some sort of secret pun in the numbers or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, go to TF Wiki to look up this episode and check that out. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about this one?
Yeah, it's a fun gimmick episode.
Yep.
Fun
little party episode.
Yeah, really weirdly, bizarrely good animation.
Yeah, fantastic animation. And it's not like it's a badly written episode either, because so it's not wasted on it's a poor episode or anything.
Yeah, it's a fun. I remember rewatching this one quite a bit, so it's pretty entertaining. It's good.
And with that, we'll take a short break and come back with Megatron's Master Plan. And we're back with Megatron's Master Plan Part 1.
Indeed.
I think it's your turn.
I believe it's me.
Yeah.
Megatron enlists the aid of Mr. Sean Berger, not spelled the way you think, a wealthy and corrupt human politician, to frame the Autobots for the Decepticons' crimes and sway public opinion against them. Somehow, this works, and the Autobots lose a legal court case against them, resulting in their banishment from Earth. Megatron remotely reprograms Teletran to send their spaceship into the sun.
And if you were thinking that this sounds familiar, that's because large plot points from this two-parter were ripped out and put into Dark of the Moon.
Yes.
The third live-action Transformer
It's
movie.
astonishing seeing how many, one-to-one scenes are pulled into Dark of the Moon from this. Laserbeak infiltrating a facility.
Yeah, and kidnapping their contact human.
Yeah.
And then the scene where they're at when the Autobots leave on the space shuttle.
Yeah, loading up onto the space shuttle, it's almost identical.
Right. And I'm I'm not sure which one is better, because okay, this is. You know what? Let's leave the review of this two-parter till we're done talking about part 1 and part 2.
Yes. But yeah, the Dark of the Moon movie is.
I hate that movie. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding.
But it's basically a mash of this and the Ultimate Doom, just rammed into each other at high speed,
along with all the Sentinel Prime shenanigans.
Yes.
A lot is happening in that movie.
But. Starting off, I do like that this starts with kind of a
lady with a dump truck.
If you're paying attention to that, then yes.
I don't know. Okay, so it's not really that big. It's just, I don't know, something about the way that they drew it just implies that, I don't know, the lady with the child at the grand opening.
It's like a 1 second shot.
It's the very first thing. I don't know why. I'm just like... I don't know.
Neuron activation, apparently.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Anyway.
Yes.
It's kind of neat how this starts with a, everyday... this feels like the modus operandi of the human alliance with the Autobots and the Decepticons trying to steal something from them.
Right. The humans create a power plant. The Autobots, or the Decepticons, try to steal the power. The Autobots show up to stop them.
Yeah, it's
it's all of season 1 in a nutshell.
Yeah, this is a basic day for Autobots, Decepticons, and humans.
Right. But surprise, this businessman has a surprise.
Yes, it's really cool seeing. Well, number one, purple hair.
Yeah. We've got a string of purple hair in these episodes.
Yes,
Or a strand, you might say.
a strand.
But yeah, I like the humans are trying to fight the Decepticons themselves, even though it's for selfish reasons on Berger's part. It's far more, or at least the same that we've seen the military do most of the time. You know?
Yes.
I mean, because you've got that episode in a previous in season 1 where they're manufacturing weapons, but nothing really ever comes of that, right?
Yeah, you feel like
is that
there's a
connected
war
to
front.
this, or is that a separate business? Because I feel like that was military that was developing the weapons, and for some reason Chip was there. But
Yeah.
this is like a private. They even say later on that this is Berger's private army.
Yes, he has a PMC, and it's cool seeing that there's political maneuvering now around like the Autobots and Decepticons, and how can one man maneuver this war that these aliens are fighting to his political advantage and stuff.
And what's interesting is the mayor, when they're doing the grand opening, he says like, "Oh, there goes something along the lines of like, oh, there goes Berger again." He's done this before?
Yes, apparently he's built his entire political campaign around manipulating public perception of Autobots and Decepticons.
Right. And then,
Or at least this is the first time that it's actually worked.
Yeah. And I'd like to point out that those laser tanks look like something that we'll see in a later episode when they are reviewing the historical footage of Cybertron, some of the things that the ancient Decepticons turned into.
It is also very funny that this is a lot of like political jockeying for a mayoral position.
Yeah.
Doesn't
I mean,
really
like
have a lot of influence.
Right. You got to start small, you know. By the end of this, he's saying, "I want 3 cities" or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You know. So he's basically like Dr. Doofenshmirtz, where he's like, "I'll take over the tri-state area."
The fun thing with Berger is that he's not really a smart man. He's very shrewd, but he's not smart in the grand scheme of things.
You think yourself very wise, Mithrandir, but for all your cunning, you have not wisdom.
Exactly. It is cool seeing
that, but, you know.
it is cool seeing a politician through and through.
Yeah. And it's interesting that Laserbeak was already there during this. This isn't the event that caught the Decepticons' attention, because Laserbeak was already in his office ready to kidnap him. While this was happening, it implies that the Decepticons had already had their eyes on him from previously. Like, whatever he did in the past, maybe he attacked the Autobots in the past.
Probably not a direct attack, but was most likely had a string of events where he was trying to get his PMC to fend off Decepticon attacks.
Or maybe Cobra. You know, I've not seen
True.
I've only seen a few episodes of the original G.I. Joe series. I wonder if this guy shows up. I don't think he is a crossover character, but that would be
Probably
pretty
not.
interesting.
That only really happens in season 3, but...
Okay, according to TF Wiki, Berger does not, in fact, appear in G.I. Joe. But it would be an interesting thing to think that maybe he fought Cobra at one point to try to win the mayoral election.
Or sided with Cobra.
Oh, yeah. Or sided with Cobra. I don't know. I feel like this episode is his first, like, major offense of siding with the bad guys, though.
Yes, I think it was mostly, like, shenanigans. Prior to this, it was... You know, because the mayor's like, you know, oh, there he goes again, sort of thing.
Right.
Like, he's always doing this, but...
Berger's taken the law into his own hands.
Yeah.
That's what he says. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So he's done that at some point in the past. I mean, I guess just having a PMC is...
If you think about it, with that context, he's kind of like a vigilante, I guess.
In a way. But I wonder if Megatron kidnapping and meeting him the way he does is how the first meeting with Dr. Arkeville went down.
Could be, honestly.
Yeah.
And it would make sense for them to kind of, like, keep tabs on prominent humans who have, like, anti-Autobot, sentiments and stuff.
Right. I also want to point out, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but him being up, Megatron taking him up on the cliff and showing him the city and saying, "Oh, I'll give you all that you see," is very similar to in the Bible when Jesus is in the wilderness and Satan takes him up on top of the cliff and it is like, "Hey, I'll give you all that you see if you just worship me." You know, it's a very similar vibe going on here.
Well, also
but in here, Burger's like, "Oh, heck yeah. I want 2 cities."
Instantly duped. Yeah, but I do like that he's not really cognizant of the scope that the Decepticons operate at.
Yeah.
He just has such a very small scale for his ambitions.
Right.
And
he's just a petty man with connections.
Yeah. It is, the wrong man at the right time sort of thing.
Yeah. Big ambition, but small minded, small
but
scope of like foresight.
Yeah, it is pretty cool though to see, obviously Megatron working another deception.
Yeah, he's Decepticoning on him.
Yeah, but he takes so much time to convincingly tell, to win over Burger, I guess.
Yeah, because he already starts with him. One of my notes later was like, wait, how much was Burger in on this? Because like here he's trying to win Burger over. He's like, "Oh, you don't see, the Autobots are evil and we're the good guys and we've just been framed and we need your help to," because he owns like the television studio and all that stuff.
I think it's kind of clear that the only reason they really singled Burger out is because he had the connections to the TV station.
Yeah.
And that he was easily influenceable enough to where they could get easy access to that.
Right.
Because their whole plan hinges around public perception turning against the Autobots.
Right.
So I think it's really like Burger himself, his own like sentiments aren't really a factor at all. It's more of just his resources that he has that are entirely considered. They weren't looking for an Arkeville to like fully ally with.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Arkeville was a business partner. Burger's a pawn. So
Right. Well, that's always Megatron's way of operating with people, is just use them for what he can get out of them.
Right. And even at the end, Arkeville was, but he had agency as well.
Yeah. So something that's confusing to me is that, they take Burger to film the Autobots stealing oil, right? And the Decepticons fight them off and save the oil and save the humans. Megatron says, "Okay, yeah, sure, right."
They lay it on so thick in this.
I know, the acting is so hilarious. And Megatron in a previous episode said that Starscream was a bad actor.
Yes.
But here, Starscream is the actor who's playing Optimus Prime. Except he isn't, because he's also there fighting Optimus Prime in the first big battle. Who's playing the Autobots in that first battle? It's okay. Later on, we see another footage when Spike is gathering footage. I don't remember if it's in the second episode or at the end of this episode.
Yeah, there's a whole list of takes and stuff that they have.
Right.
Of there's a bunch of archives, so they made a lot of footage for this.
Yeah. They filmed several fights. So I think that the one that they show, it's possible that the one that they show during Autobot Day, which also we'll get to it. Autobot Day is great. The footage that they show there is probably several different fights that they cobbled together and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And also, it brings up the question, if they can do holograms and stuff, why don't they just do holograms? Why do they need a full costume?
Well, they don't have Hound.
Yeah, that's true, but can't, Soundwave make holograms? Or no?
Not really, no.
No, I guess not. Can't he,
can make cubes.
can't he, manipulate tapes or something? No, he's only got cassettes.
No. They gotta film
Decepticons do not have VHS technology. Or computer graphics, apparently.
They gotta film it all.
They gotta film it all live.
They're Christopher Nolans.
Yeah, that's why they need Burger.
Exactly.
It's all coming together. The more I talk about this episode, the more it makes sense.
Yes.
Because watching this episode, you would not think it makes sense.
There's a lot of very hard pivots in this episode.
Yeah. We'll save, like I said, we'll save the review of the episode until the end. But yeah, Autobots Day.
Autobot Day is hilarious. because it's just a parade
Yeah.
down like a city street, which makes sense on the mayoral side of things.
Right.
Is that the mayor's like, you saved the day, and now I'm going to celebrate you.
Yeah, but it's funny that it's just over this little skirmish, whereas like they had like world-ending events prior to this where they've saved the day. And that's why a lot of the Autobots are like, well, it's about time we got some. I think even Spike
says it's about time.
Yeah,
I think they've been publicly recognized multiple times, and then obviously,
the world governments gave them energy to go back and revitalize Cybertron, but they never left.
Yeah,
maybe that's what this is all about.
The odd thing, it's finally to get them off the planet,
right?
They've been squatting for so long. But I think it's, I guess, the first one in a long time where they finally get recognized. I did make me think of there's a couple scenes in Transformers Animated where they like shake hands with the mayor and stuff like that. It made me think about that, which was a lot of fun.
Right.
Autobot Day, they got like a human parade and everything like that. I do want to keep track of Sunstreaker's opinion through this episode.
Yeah. So
because at first he's like, I never knew that Autobots had such humans had such exquisite taste.
Right.
And then we'll see where that leads later.
Yeah. So it's weird that Megatron tries to play the PR game this late. If we're taking this at face value as this is the chronological placement of this episode, which technically, because we have so many season 2 proper characters in here, like Hoist and Red Alert and Inferno, those types of characters, Cosmos shows up later, etc., then it has to come after they start showing up, right?
Yeah.
But there's been so much stuff that has happened, like the Decepticons took over New York. How do they expect us? Okay. Not everybody has I'm sorry. This is the 80s. Nobody has cell phones that just record things, right? Cybertron coming into Earth's orbit. I just feel like this episode should have taken place a lot sooner for them to be able to pull off this deception.
Well, also consider the fact that most of the things that they've been doing at this point have been dealing with like energy towers or signal arrays and stuff, which probably scrambles a lot of different tech.
Right.
So it could be that they aren't really well documented at this point.
And it could also be that maybe the governments were trying to cover a lot of this stuff up, but there's Carly being such a fangirl, and they're very public, and then I was going to say, like, maybe this is like their first big public appearance of, being heroes and stuff.
I guess at least being endorsed.
I don't know, man. It just doesn't fit into
it. Plays fast and like
all
fast
of the episodic episodes. This plays fast and loose with a
doesn't matter
timeline. Yeah, it doesn't matter. With Transformers, with something like this, I've tried to articulate it before, but being realistic is not as important as internal consistency.
Exactly.
So I give it a lot of passes on. I guess we're doing the review of these episodes now. I give this episode a lot of passes because it's a fun concept. It works really well in a lot of parts. But also got to get through a lot of really goofy stuff that is not internally consistent with previous episodes to get to these parts that work really well.
Well, it's definitely it's just hilarious. The massive 180 that happens, because it's not something that happens over a gradual amount of time. It's literally something that they have the parade that celebrates them.
Right.
They get to the town hall to get like the medal or awarded or whatever, recognized.
Right.
Megatron's broadcast comes on where he's showing the fake footage of the Autobots stealing energy. And from that footage being shown, instantly everyone in the city starts throwing soup cans and tomatoes and starts decrying the Autobots. Immediately.
Yeah, Optimus is really smart. He's trying to play it cool, trying to, look, let's not cause any trouble, But the people are so dumb and just immediately 180. They're so easily influenced by, what today it would go on social media. Here it's just on the news. It's very relevant to how public opinion is easily swayed even nowadays, even more nowadays, just because of, something you see on TikTok or
But even then,
Instagram.
Nowadays it's more of like huge, terrifying thing that's happening, and most people are like, oh, wow, anyway.
Yeah. Oh, but this person said this thing. Let's burn them at the stake, and that's more of what this is, a knee-jerk reaction to, oh, this person's this person did this thing, let's burn them at the stake.
And it's funny because you think
world-ending, climate change or whatever,
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you think that it would just end at like outrage. People are outraged now and they just don't like the Autobots. Right. This leads to immediate, within a week, monumental infrastructural action.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot more that goes on in this episode that has an actual effect on things than, people being angry on social media.
I do like that it does still, the internally consistent thing is that it still shows Optimus being the guiding hand for the Autobots, and the Autobots rage. Right. Because all of them are chomping at the bit to be like, how good they,
Yeah. Now, that is consistent with previous episodes where, like, Ironhide and Wheeljack will say things like, oh, no, I don't want to, when Optimus...
I want to start stomping humans.
when Optimus lost the fight against Megatron, Ironhide was like, well, let's just fight the Decepticons.
Yeah.
And Optimus is like, no, remember the law. And then when Optimus says, take cover, Wheeljack's like, I don't want to take cover, I want to fight in the clear.
Yeah. So they still have that confrontational energy to them.
Yeah.
That stays consistent. Take note, Sunstreaker's comments at the courthouse.
Yeah.
Ingrates. So he's automatically like, oh man, they don't appreciate us, I hate them.
Yeah.
It eventually leads to the arc where Sunstreaker's true feelings about the human race come to fruition, and that he's a racist.
I knew we could never trust him. Man, we gotta cancel this guy on social media.
This guy automatically just goes to, they're an inferior species. It's like,
oh my gosh,
Sunstreaker, you'll get canceled.
But I love that B stands up for them.
Yes.
Bumblebee's like, I don't know, my best friends are humans.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, that's sweet.
And Spike just stands there, Chip and Sparkplug are also here.
Chip is here!
Yeah.
Chip is here.
Yeah. But it's interesting that Optimus puts himself under the authority of the human laws,
Yes.
And he even tries to play that against them. Like, Burger shows up with his tanks and he's like, nah, I'm not surrendering to you, only actual authority. And then the mayor's like, I'm authority!
You're not the right authority, though! You have no jurisdiction here!
Does he? Is this mayor's... I assume that this is the city that is closest to the Autobots that they always go to, that Bumblebee runs to Ace Hardware and picks up, parts for Wheeljack's immobilizer thing.
But these are... these are alien life forms in conjunction with, like, sharing resources with top-of-the-line nuclear physicists and, like, governmental entities and stuff. You would need, like, the Pentagon to be doing this. Or some NATO or something like that. Right. And it's just so funny that the mayor shows up and is like, well, I guess we gotta go with him.
Yeah. At what level of authority like you said, it seems like you would need a higher authority because they are, kind of working with all the governments, but they are based in the United States near a specific town.
But they don't have any, like, citizenship or anything like that.
Or do they?
Maybe they do.
Maybe they do. Maybe that's why Optimus surrenders to him.
Maybe they're under, like, amnesty or something like that.
Yeah. Like, I would assume that it's more like the Ark is functions like an international embassy.
Probably.
So they should still have their own...
should they have, like, diplomatic immunity or something
Yeah. Their own sort of immunity or something like that. You know? But there are situations where another country's embassy can fall under the if somebody under the protection of the embassy commits some sort of if somebody from another country is commits a crime in a country that's not their own, that country can take some, depending on what the connections and what the embassy and what, all the foreign politics and affairs between the countries are at that time. There are situations where the country that the crime is committed in can be responsible for taking authority and punishment over the criminal. You know? Even if they're not technically under their jurisdiction because they're a foreign, they're not a national, somebody who lives there.
Yeah, exactly. A citizen.
Citizen, thank you. Yeah. They're not a citizen, but they can still be punished in certain circumstances, or they can be arrested, and then the embassy works between them to get them
it's a whole middleman situation.
Sometimes criminals are taken back to their home country to be tried.
Right.
Watch Ghost in the Shell. That's what the whole opening scene is
Most
about.
of Ghost in the Shell is about this.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what the whole opening scene is about when they're trying to capture that. I think it's it's kind of a reverse situation because they're trying to flee from Japan to the United States to sell secrets, but they fall because they haven't gotten out of the country yet. They still fall under the. You can cut this out.
This is a long. All of this to say, Optimus. It shows a lot about Optimus's character in that he defers to the jurisdiction, even if it's not exactly like an ideal situation or actually under the jurisdiction.
And once again, take everything we say with 2 grains of salt because we are not legal.
This is a handful of salt.
Yeah. We're not legal specialists here either.
But it shows his character because he's a personal connection.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine this mayor is kind of like Dr. Fujiyama, the famous scientist, or these other scientists that are like, they know Optimus on a name-by-name basis. So I imagine it's more of like, I'm doing this for a friend sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to a monkey trial for a friend. Yeah. I'm going to put my life, the life of all my Autobots, and the lives of all the humans at stake here because this guy asked me nicely.
Yeah. Well,
he didn't even ask him nicely.
Speaking of the trial, though, having it in a football stadium.
I love it.
Is very inventive because it is like a thing of like, well, how do you actually try somebody like this according to human law?
Yeah.
And, get enough room for them.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of tracking Sunstreaker through this episode, you can also track some of the humans through this episode because the guy who's yelling "lousy Autobot lover" and throwing tomatoes at them I'm pretty sure he's the same worker person that's being interviewed by.
Yes,
on TV
he also
later.
looks very similar to the guy who calls him a traitorous swine in the next episode.
Yeah, in the next episode he shows back.
This guy's just this is an authentic hater. He doesn't care who he's hating. He's just gonna hate them to the best of his ability.
Right. He is he's one of those people who spends thousands of hours on Twitter replying to every comment because he thinks it's his duty to hate everything.
He's a licensed hater. He's a certified hater. Professional.
He lives on Twitter. Anyway. Anyway. Weird that they didn't edit that last bit off the tape. But I guess, like we've said, the Decepticons don't understand VHS technology.
Well, I think it's just a raw file. Like, they edited it later.
Yeah, but it's the same... Isn't it the same tape that Berger gave to the guy earlier? He says to play the second tape before it gets to that point in the tape. So did Berger just not watch these tapes all the way through? Or is he in on it? This is the part that makes me wonder, like, is he in on it?
I definitely don't think he is. I think he's just following orders.
Yeah. And like we see in the next episode, he's not in on it. But it's just weird that this part is still at the end of the tape, Yeah. Also, Dirge says when he picks up the camera, "Hey guys, let's make some home movies." And I'm pretty sure he's in Hoist Goes Hollywood also, so
He
there's
is.
a nice little connectivity there.
I like the idea of Dirge being a cinephile.
Yeah. Anyway.
The eventual decision to exile the Autobots into deeper space.
Yeah.
It's weirdly... I like that it's an intersection of human law meeting Cybertronian law.
Right.
Because Cybertronian law seems very trigger-happy on exiling people into deeper space.
Yeah. And this might be what we were talking about with... Is it extricating? Is that the right word? Expediting.
Extraditing.
Free 2-day trial. Shipping Autobots to the sun. Anyway,
which is also very funny because it's Burger sponsors the ship.
Yeah.
Which is like
he's basically like Amazon or something.
It's like, this is a death ship brought to you by Amazon.
Right. He puts his name on the ship. Yeah.
Also, his name is in fact not spelled like a hamburger.
Yeah.
It's spelled Berger.
Yeah.
But it is very funny.
Right. Because he's clearly been eating some burgers.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry.
He's your stereotypical pompous businessman.
Right. I love the hat that he wears in the next episode.
Yes.
But yeah, but no, this could be another thing. Extraditing. They're sending them off to Cybertron to be judged by Shockwave or something.
Shockwave, the court of one.
Yeah. I don't know. He's got all those little drone guys in the Dinobot desertion.
Yeah, but it is odd how they completely. You did point this out that they completely turn a blind eye to the Decepticons in this trial.
Yes.
Like all of their previous actions, the verifiable evidence that they all have of like, yeah, you almost destroyed the Earth multiple times.
Yeah. Well, technically Optimus pushed the button when Cybertron came, so, I
guess he is liable.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of times where just the fights, if they kind of pin this more on, look, having both of you here is very detrimental to... this comes up in Season 3 when the Japanese get angry at Rodimus Prime for fighting the Decepticons and causing chaos in Japan.
Yeah, true.
And it's like, well, but if we weren't here, the Decepticons would be, just wrecking havoc anyway, right?
Yeah, it's the whole Sokovia Accords collateral damage thing.
Oh,
where it's
from
like,
Avengers?
Yeah. It sounds like a legitimate point, but when you really boil it down to the stakes that are at play in the story itself, it's kind of a straw man argument.
Yeah, and they're playing the angle that everything was always the Autobots' fault 100%, and the Decepticons, Megatron did nothing wrong.
Yeah,
Griffin did nothing wrong.
No.
But yeah, I mean, did they never present any evidence whatsoever against the Decepticons? Like, what?
Well, it could very well be that it's all a sham trial that, like, Berger put it on and stuff, or something, but I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna grab into the next episode a little bit, but in the next episode, Optimus does say, like, maybe I shouldn't have gone along with human laws, and maybe I should have just stayed and just... Like, it sounds like if you could extrapolate it to, like, maybe I should have just ruled with an iron fist, I shouldn't have been nice. But
it's less of
it kind of sounds like Optimus, like, maybe gave into all of this because he's like, Your Honor, we will honor your judgment. And I feel like he's just getting out of the way to say, like... You know what? If you want us gone, fine. Let's see how long you last with just the Decepticons here. You'll be begging for us to return.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe what he was waiting for in the spaceship. Like, they were just going off to Cybertron, and he's like, you know what? You can call us back anytime. Anytime.
They're not going to call us back.
They're not calling us back. And we're heading into the sun. I guess we should just go back.
Well, at no given point do we have any indication that that's what's going through his head.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a, we must be honorable sort of thing. And then realizing, well, I can't be honorable if I let it just become being trampled over sort of thing.
Right.
And not standing up for myself.
Right. Because clearly the humans are going to get enslaved by the Decepticons.
Yeah.
We've only been gone for 5 minutes, and you know how that is.
It's kind of irresponsible to assume that things are going to be okay by just leaving. And but I do love the moment when they are boarding the ship and Burger gloating, the mayor like kind of spitefully, saying like you'll get yours, Burger, sort of thing.
Yeah,
but also the humans, gathered around and like really being, somber and emotional that like this is the last time we're going to see our friends.
Yeah, and Optimus, talking to them, like, I don't know where we're going to go, but we'll figure it out, and there's a lot of goofy stuff in this episode, but they nail this scene.
Yeah.
When they're boarding this ship, that is a somber, emotional scene, and it is just fantastic. And I want to know if when Megatron reprograms Teletran to send them into the sun and you see it explode, or it's just like flying off into the sun, right after this somber scene where it feels like we're never going to see our friends again, that shot when the rocket takes off and it reflects in Chip's glasses, chef's kiss.
Very nice.
I want to know if this episode scarred children just as much as the Transformers the movie.
I know it didn't do that for me. More of the stuff in the second episode really kind of like, was like, oh, this is a harrowing sort of thing. But never really spooked me. It could be different for anyone else, but yeah. Honestly, you probably watched like maybe the Chaos episode and then got scared or something.
Yeah, that big crystal monster thing.
It depends on when you watch it and how you watch it and how big of an impact Transformers has on your life.
Right,
but...
and what order you watch it in.
Yeah, true.
And how much you buy into the silliness of this concept to being this late in the game.
Yeah, this asks a lot of buy-in for this episode.
Right. But like we said, if you take it by itself in a vacuum, it's not a bad concept.
Yeah.
Conceptually, it's not bad, And with that, we'll take a break. And we're back with Megatron's Master Plan Part 2.
And that's you.
With the Autobots gone, the Decepticons enslave the city to harvest Energon. Cosmos and Trailbreaker save the Autobots from the ship exploding, but are still directed towards the sun. Chip escapes to contact the Autobots, but Thrust destroys Teletran, accidentally letting the Autobots return and liberate the city.
So
I don't know how long they were gone. I assume the ship is going pretty fast, but it should take quite a while to get to the sun. It seems like the Decepticons would have taken over more than just one city.
Yeah, they kind of take their time with this, and considering the pace that they moved in like other ones with like the attack on New York, the attack on Washington and stuff, well, I guess it's the same thing as like in Microbots where they're celebrating their victory too early. They're like, well, the Autobots are gone.
Yeah.
And we ensured their death. So we're just going to do this at our own pace, slow and, enjoying it and savoring it. What I do like about this one is that it also seems to have a influence on the comic run All Hail Megatron from IDW. Especially with starting off with them just laying waste to human settlements and cities, and also the Autobots being exiled off in a deeper space and everything. All Hail Megatron has a very good portrayal of the terror that Decepticons can inflict.
In a previous episode, I said it takes like a few months to get to the moon, but according to Google, it takes like 3 days. Nowadays it takes 3 days. I'd have to do a little more research.
It took a while for
it was like a week or so, I believe, the first time we went to the moon.
Yes.
And then according to Google again, it would take a few years to get to the sun.
Dang.
So yeah, Megatron should be ruling the planet by now. Anyway.
Again, he took his time.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so we were talking about how easily the public is swayed. Now we have Decepticon Day.
Yes. It is a complete and total 180.
Yeah.
And it is so hysterical to watch play out so quickly.
I love the kid in cosplay.
The Decepticon groupie.
Yeah.
This kid is just the peak icing on the cake for how ridiculous this public perception turn is.
Okay, also, he... I'm pretty sure later on he's the same kid that's drawing Megatron.
Yeah,
and
the little brat.
He's run out of metal-colored crayons.
Yes.
Because Megatron
To be fair,
is two
silver's
colors.
a very difficult color to find in a crayon box.
Yeah. But he's colored Megatron in completely well all through the rest of it. If he's done that drawing, he has a future in art.
He's on model.
He is on model. He's, all he's got left is that leg. And then he just, like, short circuits and just starts drawing outside the lines. I think...
Made it so far, he just couldn't make it any further.
Here's my theory. It's a coloring book. The Decepticons already have a coloring book set out.
Maybe Berger owns a publishing company.
Right, yeah. And then the kid is, like, just coloring outside the line on that one because he's mad that his metal-colored crayons are gone.
Well, the funny thing is that he's also in, like, a perfect one-to-one Megatron cosplay.
Yeah, where'd he get that from? Do they already have costumes, or did he make that?
And he's like, way to go, all these Decepticons are, like, calling them by name and stuff, and it's just like, how long has this kid been, following he was nowhere to be seen on Autobot Day.
Right.
This kid has been a Decepticon sympathizer for years.
Since the start of season 1. Yeah. There's a...
He's like, they're just misunderstood.
Megatron did nothing wrong. but yeah, okay, so this brings me back to my point. Why does Megatron take so long? In the scene during Decepticon Day, Starscream asks him, why don't we just snuff them all out now, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, or what are we waiting for? Let's just make them slaves now, right? And Megatron's like, no, I have my reasons. And I think his reasons is literally he just wants to bask in the adulation.
Well, he looks pretty happy during the parade.
He actually smiles when he sees the kid dressed up as him.
Well, because
this is a very interesting look into his character.
Yeah, it's exactly what he wants. Is just, people to praise him and power and stuff. So
well, previously all he wanted was just power.
True.
He didn't care how he got it. He didn't care anything. But this little taste of adoration.
It could also just
That's not something he gets from his Decepticons.
True.
Soundwave is very loyal, but he does not adore Megatron.
Right.
Shockwave is very loyal, and he thinks Megatron's indestructible. That's probably the only reason he's loyal. He doesn't adore him. Yeah. Starscream hates the guy.
Most people who are loyal to Megatron mostly do it through, like, a tactical reason. Like, they're like, you are the strongest. You have led us to victory in the past. You've proven yourself time and time again to be the best.
All the relationships with Megatron are exactly what he puts into his relationships the other way.
Right.
They're all just using each other.
Yeah, I don't know if it's actually adoration, because he does consider the humans, like, less than germs and stuff.
Right.
But I think it's him relishing in the deception. That he's like, this is a plan that's gone well. I'm going to enjoy the fact that these people are so stupid.
Yeah, that could be too. I honestly, with, just pure evil Megatron in Generation 1, that sounds more sounds more correct than my, sympathetic approach.
I could see someone like Starscream or heck, maybe even Thundercracker be in this same position and actually feel something from the adoration.
Yeah. Starscream especially.
Yeah, Starscream just wants his ego flattered no matter who it comes from, sort of.
Right. That's he doesn't really need power.
But usually...
He needs, confirmation. He needs his ego stroked.
Yeah. Well, you even see that in later characterizations of both Megatron and Starscream. Is that in a lot of, I think it's Armada, there's a lot of scenes where, Thrust is groveling at his feet, and he despises that.
Right.
And in Starscream, his whole characterization of all I ever wanted was your respect.
Right.
That, kind of could be read into a situation like this. Yeah. But, anyway... but that being said,
that's not this Megatron and Starscream.
Exactly, but you can see that element
right.
play out later. But More importantly, is the Soundwave and the Cassetticons in a dance hall.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And I wonder if it's where he gets the idea for the Dancetron in a future upcoming episode. And also, I wonder if the Autobots did stuff like this.
Yeah.
Like, this is the stuff normally the Autobots do.
Well, it's them playing face.
Bumblebee being out there in a dance hall, you know?
Yeah.
Because he was pretty popular in that arcade.
And I think it's them, like, playing up the deception angle is that we're just like the Autobots. We're actually good people and stuff. Whereas probably the reason why Soundwave is there because, one, music, but two, intel gathering of some kind. Yeah. And also maybe the cassettes are enjoying it because he does seem to prioritize them and how they feel a lot.
Yeah,
so.
and Rumble seems to be, he says, hey, Soundwave, get down.
I could even see this being like...
Soundwave's just like, I'm already down.
Yeah.
I can't get any more down.
There's no further elevation that I can descend.
He could transform and get tiny.
True. But, like, I could see them being like, you know, a couple of kids in the back of the van. They're like, oh, can we go to the dance hall, please? Like that. And he's like, fine.
Yeah. We talked about this a little bit, but it's weird that the footage that Spike is going through in this one, it shows the Decepticon actors are in the city. And they didn't even show that tape in the mock trial or the...
And this could be Berger using his PMC to cordon off a section of the city so they could film it or something like that.
Right, but that, again, it draws into question how far in is Berger, you know? Like, you know, does he know, does he not, you know? And then we talked a little bit about it when we were discussing the previous episode, but even Ironhide is angry at Optimus in this episode.
Yes.
Which is like, you know, Ironhide's like his number 2 guy, right? You know? They share a voice actor.
Yeah, he's the guy that if he's fundamentally disagreeing with your decision, then it's probably wrong.
Right, right. And we've talked about that before, elements of storytelling that, you know, show up a lot. That's one of them is when the confidant, you know, flips sides on you, you know that.
You probably messed up.
Yeah. But
good
it's
Dwalin and Thorin dynamic.
And then it's funny, Optimus tells Cliffjumper to turn them around after Cliffjumper has already run to the front to turn them around. So Cliffjumper is mutinying at that point, and then Optimus is like, yeah, okay, I approve.
Of all the Autobots to do something like that, it would be Cliffjumper.
Is this Cosmos' first appearance?
So far, yes.
Cosmos is one of my favorite characters just because he is so adorable.
He is pudgy, he's round, he's very, he's green, he's yellow, he's red. He has a funny voice.
Yep, I love him. He's just so great.
Amazing.
I love him.
And he says, no.
Yeah. And also his UFO mode, the first time I saw it, I thought he was a landmine.
He looks like one, like little red button at the top and everything.
Yeah. Anyway.
All this, Cosmos is in fact an MVP in this episode.
Also, nice camera move to Trailbreaker just before the fake out death of them running into the sun.
Yes. I do like this whole sequence
Optimus
of them
is like, oh, we got no chance left, and then he turns and looks at Trailbreaker.
Yeah, he's like, no chance left other than Trailbreaker.
Yeah, and if you know that he makes shields, hey, there's a little setup for you. Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that.
I do also like the build up to the sequence of them, like, everything's heating up, and they're about to die, and seeing, like, the sign melt off of the ship and stuff. They lean very much into the fake out death, which is good. You have to sell that.
So. Yeah, and I think that they do a pretty good job with that. And then Megatron gleefully watching, too.
Yes.
He's like, ha, 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 ha.
We've seen it before. He celebrates too early.
Yeah.
This is at least a little bit of progress in that regard, in that he's like, I set him up to go die. I'm gonna watch and make sure that they actually die.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, he watches the explosion happen.
Yep.
And it's reasonable to assume that that explosion means that they're all dead.
Right.
So
the most unreasonable part about that is that he actually has a camera following them.
Yeah. So, like, a little bit of progress in that area.
Right.
Not much, but it's there.
It would have been neat to see if, like, a Decepticon was, like, following them or something. Like, a Thundercracker out there or something, and they just left too soon to, you know, investigate.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I think at this point of the episode, this is like the best part of the conceit of this thing.
Yeah.
It's all led up to the deception being revealed.
Right.
And the Decepticons basically having their way with the planet.
Right. Because their true colors come out when they do the little press conference, and he's just like, I'm going to bleed your planet dry. You fell for the old deception. Ha ha ha. And then just like, Megatron goes full tyrant. And it's interesting that the Autobots are technically never cleared to the public because Spike's evidence is blown up by Laserbeak. And then Burger's breakdown and realization of what happened is just great,
Yeah, Burger, like, I think his character, it's a lot of potential for characterization and, like, really getting into the nitty-gritty of, like, why does someone do something like this?
Yeah.
But, like, he doesn't really have much beyond just kind of, like, being duped and then being revealed as a traitor and regretting it sort of thing.
Yeah.
So his arc isn't really that much, but it is still compelling, I think. Like, he does what he does because he's not seen in a good light. Like, he's not adored.
Yeah.
And he thinks he deserves it, even though he's kind of not really done anything other than just throw his weight around and try to be impressive. And, he probably could do a lot of good, but his ambition is so little.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I want 3 cities and stuff. Like, he effectively just... He's like Doofenshmirtz. He just wants the tri-state area. But it shows that he really is just kind of like a sad, petty dude.
Yeah.
And he gets rewarded, there's like... Megatron loves dramatic irony, which is probably why he took so much time to set up Burger to be... stoned by the public sort of thing.
Basically, yeah.
Because it's like, it's funny.
Yeah.
And it's, he's branded as like a traitor and a, like there's no going back from that whatsoever. Is that he sold out, he's the Judas of this scenario, and that he sold it out and he sold out to the enemy and doesn't realize the scope of what he did until it's too late.
Yeah.
And he regrets it. But there's no getting out of it. So I think he's really, really interesting. And then he also, like, he snaps and he starts, like, waxing poetic about the ends and the apocalypse.
Right.
Like that. And he just starts going crazy. And him, like, kind of having this, like, awakening at the very end feels... You really do get the sense that he is a completely humbled and changed man.
Yeah.
After this, where he's like, I saw the ends! Feels like a prophet or something.
Right.
But yeah, I think in a different format he could be like a extremely compelling, and you do feel sympathy for the guy, like, but you don't really feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
But I think there is a lot of room for someone like Burger to get so much like fleshing out and everything. They don't really have time for that in this, though.
Would have been nice if Dark of the Moon attempted any of what you were talking about.
Like, that's a perfect situation for something like that.
They could have been very interested in investigating this sort of character and giving us a detailed story, but that's not what that movie's about.
Yeah.
But you know what that movie and this episode do have in common and do very well? Oh my goodness, the jet raid on the city is scary.
Yes.
When those coneheads just start going nuts on the city, they never show it, but people died.
Yeah, there's shots of
like this is the episode that would have got banned in during 9/11.
Yeah, literally they do a 9/11. Like
right. They're just shooting up cars
but I love that they're
breaking windows and smashing buildings.
All of the jets in this scene are,
and the animation is top notch too.
They are relishing the terror that they're sowing. Yeah. They're not doing this to like take out tactical areas or anything like that. They're doing this just because they have fun terrorizing people. And there's no reason to destroy these cities. It's actually pretty wasteful of like resources and stuff. Especially since right after this, we see that all of the humans are becoming slaves.
Right.
A lot of people probably died in these attacks.
Yeah.
That's wasting manpower.
Yeah.
But that's... And the fact that Megatron is like... You never see him condone something like this, but he's just letting his troops run amok.
Yeah.
Like, it's genuinely terrifying.
Right.
And yeah, and they're not only just like destroying buildings, they're shooting trails down streets and like making people run away from it and stuff like that, and it's just holy smokes. The fear factor that I think Dark of the Moon does a pretty good job of portraying that with like the time lapse of
the
Decepticon occupation and stuff. All Hail Megatron does a phenomenal job with this, with the first attack on the city.
The IDW comic run.
Yeah, I think those are like the potential of this scene fully realized in those avenues.
But I don't know. This scene does itself very well.
Yes.
You know, that sounds kind of weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This scene in and of itself is very well done.
Yeah, it establishes that there's nobody to stand up to the Decepticons, and this is what they do when they are completely unchecked.
And then we get this time-lapse sequence, or montage sequence of the humans being enslaved and having to work and mine energon, and not mining energon, but mining energy that gets converted into energon. Yeah. Mining energons from Transformers Energon.
But, like, you see all of the slaves, they just have, like, normal clothes. Yeah. And there's a terrifying aspect to it that, like, everyone just being rounded up, like, from their day, and it doesn't matter what they were wearing or not wearing. Yeah. They're just immediately thrown into hard labor. Right. And probably pushed to like 24-hour shifts or something like that. Because it's not just a tyrannical regime. It's a tyrannical regime from overlords who are not human. Right. They fundamentally don't think about human needs or anything like that. They're just, you work until you're dead.
Right. Because they're not taking into account that there are humans who have specialized in certain tasks. They're just like, oh, they're all the same. They can all just do the same labor.
Yeah, like Burger.
Yeah, and there's
no considerations for class or skill set or anything like that.
I don't know what they're doing in that workshop, though, where they're just moving levers up and down. But yeah, the point is gotten across. Right. You
know? But then we have a cool little sequence with Chip as well. Where he busts out.
I love Chip's little adventure. It brings up the question of where is that truck going? Are the Decepticons doing trade with other towns? Like, what's going on here? Why are the Decepticons letting that truck deliver?
I think it's like,
what is he delivering to?
Yeah, I think they realize that there's already a transportation infrastructure in place. So why not just use it to move the resources that they need to get moved to different spots?
Yeah, but the somber tone leading up to this, and then Chip's actual like little adventure when he gets out, it just has such a well done mood to it. That feeling of lost hope, isolation. He's being hunted, and it's just this last desperate attempt to contact the Autobots. You know, and it's just at night. Everything's kind of quiet. It's a little quiet sequence.
So it's like martial law. Like nobody's allowed out at certain times.
And he's sneaking out, but it's kind of like this, you know, it's not really like, oh, I'm in a chase, you know, it's like this moment of introspection to just kind of sit back and think about, like, you know, oh, this is what all happens when we turn on the people who help us, you know? When we believe the media over, you know.
It's like we voted for this. We brought this upon ourselves. And also that like
and then he tries to get the Autobots back, and he thinks that fails. Poor Teletran once again being destroyed. What's that poor thing? But yeah.
And like there's an aspect of it that like
so it gets even worse before it gets better.
Yeah. And like with the truck stop and the truck driver and everything, you get the sense that there is this aspect of like life goes on. Yeah. And that there's people who had no idea about any of this. Yeah. But were suddenly just like held at gunpoint of like, well, you're a truck driver. keep driving your truck.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, well, what's changed? Not a whole lot, but still, it's harrowing.
Yeah. It's like, you know, this isn't a really good analogy, but it's like America in World War II, where there's this war, but it's happening over there.
Yeah.
Until Pearl Harbor gets bombed, then everybody's like, oh, the war! You know? Except it's not really a good analogy, but, you know, you get kind of that idea where it's like, up to this point, Transformers has been their problem
over there,
but now it's really come home to these people here.
Yeah, like you probably hear about giant robots fighting over a nuclear reactor somewhere in Arizona, and you're in New York, and you're just like, well, that doesn't really affect me, like whatever.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden New York gets attacked, and then you're like, oh, it's on, you don't mess with New York, baby, sort of thing.
Yeah. Also, I just want to point out that there is a truck stop called Stan's near the Ark. If I were making a map, I would like to, you know, make a map of like all these locations that we see in G1 where they are in relation to the Ark.
Exactly.
You know? But I'd have to go back. I should have either started that when we started this podcast, or I'll have to go back and watch the show from the beginning again.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I have time for that right now. But hey, maybe if people want to support us, I mean, we don't have any way to be supported, but at this moment. But maybe one day, and then maybe that will be something that I'll do for that.
I like to think that Stan's is also like a bar for Autobots. Like they go there and fuel up, and then they're just like chatting.
Yeah, like a hangout place.
Yeah.
Where Sideburn can hit on little red cars. Wait, that's a different show. That's
Oh my.
Is it Sideburn? I don't remember.
Somebody.
That's another one I haven't watched all the way through.
Yeah.
Anyway, but something that I do like in this episode is that the military finally does something.
They actually finally decide to mobilize.
Yeah, I mean, this is like other than the attack on the power generator in that Insecticon episode. This is the first time that we see. This is only the second time that we see the military actively attack the Decepticons.
Yeah.
But it feels really neat because it's like the final desperate, you know, like...
This is the last stand.
You know, it feels like a desperate strike because they've been letting the Autobots handle them for so long.
Yeah.
And this is sort of, you know, kind of ties into what we were talking about, like, you know, what kind of jurisdiction are the Autobots... Why are the Autobots leaving to space just from being judged by, you know, this local city court in a football field, whereas they've been working with all these governments, and, you know, like, maybe the U.S. military was like, no, you can't get rid of the Autobots, we need them. Like, they knew the truth, but the public was swayed enough that, you know, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, but it is a fun like sequence because it's the Jets, the Jets being danced around by the Jets.
Yeah. It's pretty neat.
And you get that in All Hail Megatron as well. There's a great sequence of fighter on fighter action.
Yeah.
It is
you
also
get that in the first live action movie too.
True.
Yeah.
But it is also hilarious that Megatron's naming conventions have definitely slid since the last time he tried to name a human city.
Last time it was New Cybertron, I think.
Yes.
Which kind of makes sense because they were taking over New York.
Yeah, they were like terraforming and everything. Megatronia 1 is his name for the city. And he says there will be many more, which means that he's literally going to name every single city on the planet Megatronia 1, Megatronia 2, Megatronia 3, Megatronia 4.
Yeah. We'll get you know, one little sound wave and one little sound wavia and one little Starscreamia.
Starscreamopolis.
Starscreamopolis, yeah. You know. But the yeah. I mean, you know, you got Washington, you know, Washington DC,
true.
You know, George Washington. I don't know if that's the case, but
yeah, but you don't have Washington 1.
There are lots of maybe in like I feel like wasn't there like I don't know. I feel like either during Stalin's time or Hitler's time, they named some places like that. I don't know. I feel like that has some historical basis, but it does feel very mechanical, which fits, with these robots.
Just categorize it by numbers. Why not? It does kind of feel odd that, like, the humans, I try so hard, but they try so much and it just amounts to nothing, and they kind of don't really have an effect on the greater plot as a whole. Mm-hmm. It's just that the Autobots decided that, hey, we can actually tank this explosion and then head back.
Well, what it is they still wouldn't have survived if Chip didn't get Teletran destroyed and then the signal that was leading them into the sun stopped.
That's true.
Which apparently was also leading Cosmos. But I love how cathartic the Autobots returning is for everybody, because they are absolutely at their lowest, and then the Autobots just show up.
It's a very triumphant return.
They hear the engines rolling up, and they're like, oh, "Do you hear that? It's the Autobots!" And then Megatron's like, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
And then the
His
Autobots
crap
just
moment
show.
is so
yeah,
good.
yeah. And then the Autobots show up just in the nick of time and save everybody. It's not. Okay, the execution is not as good, but it's reminiscent, analogous to the Ride of Rohan when, Gondor, in Lord of the Rings, when Gondor is at its darkest, especially in the book, because it gets even darker than in the movie, but they've been besieged, they're under attack, they're all gonna die, and then the Witch King bursts through the door, and then he's like, wait a minute, what's that? And the rooster crows and the horns of the Rohirrim, and they come over the hill, and the sun starts shining, and they charge in, and that's kind of what this is doing here, because
that's what it's going for.
That's what it's going for here, and it actually, the moment when they show up, actually, to me, I felt the catharsis when they showed up.
I think
the fight itself is lame.
I think 50% of it works in that the catharsis of them actually being back and like that dawn of hope sort of thing. Is fantastic. The resolution of all of this. We have to assume that the Decepticons have a at least regionally spanning regime at this point. They've probably taken over 1, maybe 2 states or something.
No, I think it's just this city.
It's just this one.
I think it's just this city. It's just Megatronia 1.
So,
because they're all there.
It's every single Decepticon versus every single Autobot. They just stand in like a firing line and just shoot at each other without moving.
And they don't even try to use the humans as shields. The Autobots aren't concerned about hitting them in the building. They're just there to mow down Decepticons.
There are no tactics in this whatsoever other than just who can shoot more. Not even better. Just more.
And it would have worked if there was an actual charge, they slammed into them and they started fighting them. And I don't think that this fight needs to be long, and I don't think it needs to be complicated.
No.
But it needs to be better than just sliding across still images of people standing in line and shooting.
Yeah. I can't fault it too much because technically Heavy Metal War ended the same way.
But they were moving.
They were moving. And there was actually a tactic of push them
into the volcano.
This is literally just shoot at them until they die.
right.
And they don't even die. They just fly away.
Yeah.
It's the ending that we all expect from an episode that normally would occur. But this is supposed to be the sort of mid-season finale of incredible imports and everything. It falls very flat.
yeah. But we do get that nice little scene where everybody's like, wow, we're glad the Autobots are back. And I guess they clear their name by example through their actions, another biblical theme, you'll know them by their fruits, right? In this case, the fruit is shooting Decepticons after the Decepticons have, had evil fruit, have enslaved people. But they're never technically they're still technically convicted of everything that the false images that Megatron showed them. You know, they're never cleared of that.
It's not at all interested in explaining how the Autobots are reintegrated or anything like that. And I guess I'm not really interested in seeing that either.
Right. Like, you just assume that next episode everything's gonna be fine.
It's a testament to how flimsy the public opinion angle is executed in this episode, in that it's like, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
You don't really feel any weight behind the public perception swaying.
But once again, you do feel weight behind the effects that has.
Yes.
And once again, just like last episode, a lot of goofy stuff you get through for a couple of really well done scenes.
Yeah, I think it has so many good ideas. It's a testament to how good the ideas are, considering how much of this has been readapted into other things. True. Mm-hmm. Is that there's a lot of potential here.
Yeah.
It just needs a lot better execution, and this sort of plot is something that needs more time to marinate, like the Ultimate Doom had. 3 episodes. Right. It's literally only 22 more minutes, but that does give you a lot more leeway.
True.
And Ultimate Doom executed its ideas pretty well up until the very end. But this one is kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
A lot of good, very high highs and very low lows.
Yeah, I feel like this episode's plot needed to come before the Ultimate Doom, because Megatron enslaved hundreds of people in that episode too, and it definitely needs to come before the City of Steel, because Megatron takes over New York in that episode. In fact, the way that this they're organized on the DVDs that I have from Shout Factory, which was using some sort of non-canonical timeline for episodes, is that City of Steel literally comes right after these 2 episodes. So Megatron just goes and takes over New York after this. He's like, I'm not playing the PR angle this time, I'm just taking New York.
Brute force.
Anyway, so yeah, I like these episodes. They're pretty goofy.
They're classics for a reason.
They are classics, but just don't think about it too hard.
Yeah.
Just don't think about it. Feel it. Don't think about it. Feel it. It's like, what's that Nolan movie?
Don't think.
Tenet.
Just
where
feel.
He's like, don't think about it. Just feel it. All right. And with that, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll do our segments. And we're back with our first segment, Best Quotes and Weird Robot Lingo.
The noteworthy one-liners, dialogue, or weird robot versions of idioms.
100%.
Sorry. Our off-air convo of, are you a 100% person, or are you a for sure person? You are one of the two.
That was our in-between. That was what we were talking about on the break. Anyway, so Auto Berserk.
For sure.
Auto Berserk.
Auto Berserk.
Let's just speed through these.
Yeah. We got Red Alert says this a lot in this. It's a plot.
Yeah. Hey, my circuit's electric blew just out. To mine, I'm blind flying. Away move before collide we. Crash.
That was the scrambled vocal circuits that they had in Auto Berserk.
I love it. I had to write that down. That's got to be hard to talk backwards and stuff.
Well, also anyway. It vaguely sounds like the Lee Koro speech from Bionicle.
Oh yeah, it does. I've got morons on my team. Megatron.
A firefighter reacting to Ironhide picking up his vehicle.
Not just any firefighter. This is Billy Blazes from Rescue Heroes.
No two ways about it. I gotta take that vacation.
Is that his name? Yeah.
That's Billy Blazes.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And then this sequence is great. You won't fire at me. Pew pew! No, but I will!
Megatron.
Yeah, Optimus is trying to convince Red Alert not to shoot at him, and then Megatron's like, I'll shoot at you!
Yeah, don't worry, I'll take it up.
I love that. That was great.
And then Red Alert's very poignant quote at the end is like, with friends like these, real friends, it's easy to be brave.
That's
nice. Sappy schmaltzy, but I love it.
Yeah. As Braun famously said, mushy but true.
Yes.
Microbots. The Mayans didn't have spaceships. An archaeologist who hasn't watched Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Listen, man, you're in archaeology. You should at least have the back of the mind idea that maybe, just maybe, there's an ancient ruin.
I think every
incomprehensible technology that you'll find.
Aliens. The ancient aliens guy.
Perceptor, fully leaning into the conceit of the episode, will show Megatron that sometimes bad things come in small packages.
Oh yeah, Perceptor's just got great one-liners in this.
It is great.
Yeah. Brain impulses, evil brain impulses.
Probably the hallmark quote of the episode.
Impluses? You spelled it impluses.
Impluses.
Drunk Megatron.
Good old days back at Cybertron. Didn't have to sneak around in these ugly Earth disguises. Good old Cybertron! Land of the
Mega drunk.
Mega drunk Megatron.
Yeah, it's a nice little insight into his into how he views being turned into a gun.
Yes, he's 100% Cybertronian purist, but it also
100%.
showing
for sure.
It also shows his
I'm sorry.
It's inescapable.
They don't even know what we're talking about because we weren't recording that. We were making fun of YouTuber podcasts.
That's for the Patreon subscribers that we don't have yet.
Because we don't have a Patreon yet.
No.
One day, maybe.
Someday.
Then I can make that map.
Someday.
All right, Megatron's master plan.
Trax really playing up his trademark ability. I want to throw some dark on the subject.
Yeah, we don't talk about that very much, but it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, he's able to throw night on people.
Yeah. And he did that in the Dinobots
That's
episode,
bizarre.
So, yeah. Panic will defeat you, Dirge! Ramjet is a Benny Gesserit, fears the mind killer.
Yes. Megatron,
the evil
imposter Optimus Prime laughing maniacally.
So here's my question. Why didn't they just use the clones from that episode where they made a clone of Optimus? Or not the clone, the radio-controlled clones.
Because it didn't work that one time.
But like
which
you
means
said,
it will never work again.
Yeah,
according
yeah.
to Megatron's logic.
Well, like you said, that spaceship and the cloning device gets away at the end of that episode.
They should be able to just use it.
Right. So why did they make Starscream dress up like Optimus Prime? But maybe that's where those Autobots came from at the beginning when Starscream was next to Megatron.
Maybe.
Fighting them.
Who knows?
Anyway. That would have been a lot harder for them to explain, though, to the general public. And as we know, the general public is stupid.
They are very stupid in this one.
Maybe Sunstreaker was right.
Oh, Sunstreaker, you'll get canceled.
Save the humans!
Megatron.
Well, okay, Megatron.
Laying it on thick.
The wheels of justice do not stop turning for children. The judge in literally every kid's show.
Or it's like, Your Honor, we're looking for more evidence.
Yeah. Oh, well, you're just a kid. We don't care anything about what you have to say.
The plucky-go-lucky people who's like, we're gonna go save the guy who's being tried.
Oh, and then the actually really good scene from this episode. Where will you go? Somewhere, Chip. Maybe even Cybertron. Wherever we go, we will miss you. You, Spike, and Sparkplug have been true friends.
It's really touching.
Yeah.
It's nice. Burger. You promised me 3 cities. He ups the ante every single time that we see him. He's like, yeah. I want a city. And then when he makes the deal, he's like, my price is 2 cities. Right. And then later on, he's like, I want 3 cities.
Yeah. Megatron's Master Plan Part 2. Cosmos. I just love the way he says that.
I guess anything is better than nothing. Cosmos again.
This evidence is conclusive. How could we be so dumb? The mayor realizes.
Mayor stating the obvious.
People of Earth, this is Megatron. Any questions?
PR mags. This city is under martial law, and I am the marshal. Megatron really enjoying his time in the spotlight.
It is the end. The apocalypse. Burger. No, not Teletran. That's all we have left.
It's pretty good from Chip. And then
when he calls him, "You pile of reject parts!" Reject parts!
Sparkplug digging into Burger. He's like, "I'll even retire my private military." And he's like, "Well, you don't have to worry about that. They all quit when they found out what a dog lunch you are." "Well, I said I was sorry."
Yeah, we didn't talk too much about that, but yeah, he's like, "I'm sorry," and they're like, "You're still going to jail."
Yeah, he does actually face justice.
Yeah, I think that's really neat that they don't just like, "Oh, that's okay, you learned your lesson." They're just like, "You're going to," the next quote is Optimus, "You are going to face justice, and may it be kinder to you than it was to us."
Little Brian basically saying, "May God have mercy on your soul."
All right, next segment. Favorite characters in this batch of episodes. Mention who and why.
For me, kind of Perceptor.
I think so too.
I like his cool nonchalance about being dogged on for most of the episode. That and Burger. I do like Burger a lot.
Burger's fun.
He's very entertaining.
Yeah, I like the little Megatron groupie.
Yeah. Can't forget him.
Yeah.
He was never seen again, or was he?
Yeah. And of course, Red Alert and Inferno are great in their episode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Inferno's a great character. Not Inferno, Red Alert. Yeah. Red Alert's really good. But I don't know. Perceptor's just sticking in my head for some reason.
I think Perceptor is the, of this group of episodes, I think that Perspector.
Respector.
Stinky Pete. Anyway, yeah. Next segment. Slidey hand tech.
Magic slidey
hand tech. And any notable gadgets Transformers pull out of their various body parts, but I noticed that you put in here some just various other...
yeah, it's also just like tech.
Yeah, okay. So, read us off real quick. This was your idea, so you go ahead and just read us off.
Yes. I'm trying to figure out what this is.
Sorry, let me explain this.
Explain this one.
Optimus with the Triforce of Courage.
Explain.
So in Legend of Zelda, the Triforce, it's the 3 triangles, and it shows up on Link's hand when he gets it, Optimus, he checks his battery when they're searching for a Red Alert. He pushes the triangle that is on his wrist, and it lights up with 3 triangles in it, and they're all, like, I guess those are his power cells. They're low. But I just thought it was funny, because it looks like the Triforce of Courage.
It does, yeah.
Arm, which, Optimus would totally get the Triforce of Courage.
Yeah.
He's got the Matrix of Leadership, why not?
Exactly.
Now I need a Transformers Zelda crossover toy.
That would be a
I
lot
don't know
of fun.
who it would be, of course it's going to be probably...
The Master Sword transform into Phi, so...
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I don't know what else.
Alright, go ahead.
Megatron's finger holes that magically show up so that he can shoot lasers out of them.
Yeah, Microbots.
Electricity. From Microbots, Megatron's master plan. There's a lot of risk comms that show up. Megatron has one. Megatron cranks part of his gun so that a lens shows up in it, and he uses it to beam into Teletran 1, then change the message, even though he probably could just type it in.
Yeah, another reprogramming thing from Megatron. Not the chest tentacle, not the forehead probe, but the gun beam...
The gun, like
lens
the
thing.
Wiimote, I guess.
The Wiimote. Which, honestly, I prefer this one to the forehead probe or the chest
I don't know,
tentacle.
the chest tentacle's fun.
The chest tentacle actually comes back in Beast Wars.
It does. Optimus has a wrist comm. Starscream has a finger laser. Ratchet and Ironhide have finger lasers. There's a lot of finger lasers in this batch. The Negavator. We talked a good bit about it, but it just deletes stuff from existence. It may or may not be bigger on the inside. Ravage actually uses his hip missiles for once.
Wow!
Then they detach from his hips and fly off, and they don't show back. Well, I think they just respawn.
They just regenerate.
Megatron says something about, or no, I think it's Perceptor says something about cyber forceps.
No, Hook has cyber forceps, which are really just forceps, but Megatron uses them to remove the heart of Cybertron.
Yes, he says, Hook, hand me your cyber forceps. It's literally just a pair of tweezers.
Right. What's so cyber about them?
The transmatter reduction beam, we talked a bit about that. Electro sanitizers, which I guess are antibodies, but they're like a weird spiral laser thing
On a rail.
on a rail.
Cleaning foreign objects.
The Decepticons inexplicably all have Soundwave's ability to just make energon cubes.
Yeah, that kind of showed up in Dinobot Island also.
Yeah. The fake evil ray.
It kind of looks like, or the one that Wheeljack uses. First of all, it reminds me of like
looks like
a hand vac or a...
No, it looks like one of those Viewmaster things.
Yeah, it looks like a Viewmaster.
A Zoetrope.
It reminds me of the shotgun that somebody has in Star Wars Battlefront. But it works kind of like, in theory, it works like the personality destabilizer that they use in Autobot Attack of the Autobots, which is probably where Megatron got the idea for this.
Yeah.
Because he also had the idea for the personality.
I like how they have there is a justification for it's like, why are the Autobots so evil when they've acted good this whole time? Mm-hmm. And it's like, well,
why are the Decepticons so evil?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And they come up with this hokey invention, which probably would be invented by Wheeljack.
Okay, once again, within the internal logic of Transformers, it actually makes sense because we've already had the personality destabilizer thing, you know, so why not this?
Exactly.
But it's just the way they go about presenting it. Suddenly, I feel like I should do evil. Megatron's new function for the fusion cannon.
Bad things.
Yeah. All right, we already talked about that. Next segment. Favorite errors. Any noteworthy animation, sound design, or lore mistakes? Auto Berserk. What's with the frozen fire? It just stops.
Yeah, it's just perfectly still.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
And Red Alert keeps talking at the end.
Yeah, his mouth.
What else does he say? He just keeps
He's
on
like,
talking.
it's easy to be brave, and now I'm going to detail more about my
they
psychological
just cut out his
condition.
soliloquy. Okay, now this is not an error. I just wanted to point out that there's a really nice detail on the animation of the helicopter, the propeller. It becomes more stiff as it spins faster.
Yes, it spreads out, which is pretty cool.
Microbots.
In Microbots, Brawn's lines come out of Perceptor at one point. Hook has a white head. Why don't we blast?
Oh, yeah. Brawn asks Optimus when they're going through the jungle, why don't we blast our way through all these weeds? And Optimus says, that's not our way, Brawn, but it was back in Changing Gears.
Yeah, just barge your way through the forest.
With headlight lasers. Megatron's Master Plan, Part 1. We already kind of talked about why did they just not edit off the end of the tape. But I guess we decided that Decepticons don't understand VHS technology, and neither does Burger. He just owns the joint.
Right.
Megatron's Master Plan, Part 2. There is a flute noise coming out of a trumpet. In just at the beginning of Decepticon.
That's just a really good trumpet player.
Yeah. Where is Megatron's camera angle of the ship exploding from? You know, like, did somebody follow them? Does he have a satellite? Or what's
That's
going
where
on?
Reflector went.
That's where Reflector
He sent him out to follow him, and then he got too close to the sun and exploded.
Yeah, that's a deleted scene. Trailbreaker, you know, when he saves them with the force field, Reflector fights them, and then they throw Reflector into the sun, and that's why we never see him again. Also, the first time that we see the Constructicons in this episode is when they've been shot down and are laying on the ground in the final battle. It's funny because he looks over to the Constructicons like, merge into Devastator! But they're already dead.
They're just dead. Like, oof.
And we got Blue-Eyed Starscream.
Which is honestly a good look.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
And next segment. TF Wiki Go Button Trivia. So I kind of messed up last time, and I talked about a wiki page, but it was actually Hayden's turn because this time he's supposed to be answering, so it's my turn to talk about the wiki page this time. So, but if I say it this time, then that means that we'll be back on track for next time. Sorry. All right.
A little bit of housekeeping.
Yeah. Fortunately, we have a short one today. It's the molecule breaking up weapon.
What in the world?
And the wiki page is written... I'm just going to summarize here. It is written like a breakup letter. And it's signed by this Autobot called Rescue Force. And apparently he has... I believe he's not exactly a target master. He's kind of like a... trigger bot sort of thing, but he just kind of comes with two big guns that you can place in different things. What is he? He's a European exclusive, I think. He is a redeco of the Breast Force member Jalgar.
Ah, okay.
Okay, now I get it. Yeah. That's right. He's Rescue Force 2. He's part of the Rescue Force. So you're getting a little bit of stuff on him, but long story short, this page is about his gun, which is labeled as the molecule breaking up weapon. And in theory, what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to break up the molecular structure of things. But the way it's named is the molecule breaking up weapon, and the whole thing is just like the whole page is written like it starts with "Dear Decepticon," and he talks about we're enemies, but I gotta put my I always rescue people, so I used my molecule breaking up weapons to destroy the rocks that were trapping you under here, but now we got to go our separate ways, so I gotta use the molecule breaking up weapon on you or something, But anyway, it's just a funny Wikipedia or Transformers wiki page that you gotta go check out sometime.
This lovely little line is like, "You must understand that this is a task I cannot carry out for only one individual. I know that being crushed by tons of debris hurts you very deeply, and I only hope in time the pain will fade."
And then his little picture, it says, "It's not you, it's me." But anyway, yeah.
That's
so
grand.
just a funny little, funny random page, just to give you a little taste of the bizarre stuff you'll find when you go down TF Wiki rabbit holes.
Your monthly reminder to go check out TF Wiki.
And with that, on to our next segment. Cliffhanger questions. So last time Jacob asked Hayden the question, what should TF1's, the movie that recently came out, what should the sequel be about, and what should it be called?
Okay, so last time I answered Transformers 2, spelled TWO.
Yep.
I still think it should be, just because it'd be very funny.
Yeah.
But definitely should have like a subtitle of some kind.
Yeah.
As far as what it should be about, we have a couple of threads that it was kind of leading towards. One is that the Decepticons and Autobots have been clearly divided into their opposing sides, and that the war is mounting.
Right.
It doesn't feel like it's about to become the full-blown civil war just yet. This is a cadre of exiled Cybertronians. That it's a significant chunk of them, but they just kind of went off and did their own thing. And Optimus's monologue at the end strongly hints towards their main threat now is the Quintessons.
Yeah.
Which that was never addressed. We see the Quintessons, we see that they have this like intergalactic cartel and stuff. But they never get dealt with.
Right.
At this point. Based off of that, probably what it would be is mostly about the Quintessons coming in force and Autobots, fending them off, and Decepticons being in the mix as well, and probably having to team up again to fend them off entirely.
Yeah.
And then it's ending into the full-blown civil war.
Right.
At that point. I don't really think that's something that's super duper important to Optimus and Megatron's characterization. That more feels like a plot direction than anything else.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, so how does
where does this go?
Yeah. What does Megatron do at this point? If it's the Autobots versus the Quintessons is the main plot, what does Megatron do in this?
Yeah, because the only other time we've seen it was in the Covenant of Primus for the online continuity. The Quintesson War that happened on Cybertron, where they made first contact and they were supposed to be peaceful, and then it turned out that they were just manipulating everyone, and then there was the active rebellion against them. Yeah. That was before any Autobot Decepticon division. So this is them currently being Decepticons. Right. I could see them also going the direction of probably having the Quintesson threat. And to fend them off, they need to go after something that has to do with the original primes. Maybe get the Forge of Solus Prime, or some other relic that they have. The Star Saber, anything like that. And the Decepticons being an opposing force to that, where it's like they want it, but for their own reasons.
Right.
That could be a potential thing. What I would like to see more of is a further and further descent into noble evil of the Decepticons, and like seeing more evil. Yeah, them like going, because they're kind of at like a point where they, Megatron has fully committed to being in opposition to Optimus and everything he stands for. He's not exactly completely evil, even though he did in fact rip in half Sentinel Prime. But I think, they haven't
see himself as evil.
Yeah, he doesn't see himself as evil. He's not unabashedly evil.
I mean, he branded all his people in a fiery, uplit...
He's fully committed to a deluded view of himself, is the main thing. So I can still see there being a potential for them to, like, work together in some capacity.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's also up in the air because, sadly, Transformers 1 didn't do too well, mostly due to the terrible marketing campaign.
Right.
And there don't seem to be very many plans at the moment to follow up on this. Which is a huge shame, because it was really good.
Yeah, it was really good, and they had planned a whole trilogy.
Yes.
Which probably would have been Transformers 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. What I would really like to see, though, is, deal with the Quintessons in some regard.
Yeah.
Maybe even start it with them being victorious against the Quintessons. Like, it's the last battle.
Yeah.
And then the Civil War builds up proper. And it's building to, all of our resources were built into fending off the Quintessons and eliminating that threat. Cybertron is drained dry.
Yeah. Which
means that the whole movie is them building up to leaving. And then you have, like, the fall of Cybertron sort of plot of, we're building up to this big exodus, and it ends with them leaving Cybertron.
Right.
And that's a really good, like, it played out in Fall of Cybertron. It's a really entertaining, like, time crunch to get out and everything. And
they did that in the Prime Wars trilogy, too.
Yeah. It's, it makes for good plot.
Yeah.
And then you have number 3 be First Contact on Earth, which I believe was their intended plan.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think I would like to see more of that, the Civil War itself, than I would like to see the Quintesson combat. Yeah. So...
I even wonder if maybe Megatron would team up initially with the Quintessons to get revenge on Optimus, but also to weaken the Quintessons. Like, if he can play the two factions against each other, then he would be able to just knock out the winner.
Potentially, but we also, given that his primary motivation is never being duped again.
Right.
I highly doubt he'd be willing to side with the Quintessons at all.
Well, I think that would give him the fortitude to not be duped by the Quintessons, but to do the duping.
That's true.
I think that would be his motivation to, like, I'm going to dupe the Quintessons, I'm going to dupe Optimus, I'm going to make them fight each other, and then I'm just going to kill whoever wins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and then Optimus can hit him with, a whole, like, you've become what you hated, you've become Sentinel, and then he's like, oh gosh, you're right.
I don't care.
I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah. Again, but it would also be incredibly hilarious if they were called Dupticons and not Decepticons.
Dupticons.
For it is we who do the duping, not being duped.
Isn't that those guys that it's like a car and a helicopter and they combine together to make a robot? Oh, that's the Duocons.
No, those are the Duplo.
Duplocons. No, that's the giant Lego.
But yeah, I think...
then we got Lego Optimus Prime, and now we're back to Transformers.
There we go.
Yeah.
I think...
What was that?
Yeah, it's difficult to... really see where this could go. There's a lot of places that it could go.
I'll add on an extra question for Jacob. What do you think is going to become of the franchise or the series?
I really hope they are able to do a trilogy. If not, most likely it will probably be a straight to streaming thing, severely reduced budget and everything like that. Maybe even adapted into a series. Which I could see being like an episodic, follow the Civil War on Cybertron, the Attack of the Quintessons. There's a lot of potential for that, and it's in tradition of Transformers being a series. So.
Right. And Transformers always is just like, kind of adapting to whatever happens. And
exactly.
And in the past, no matter how bad the movies have gotten or performed, they just keep making more Transformer movies.
Yeah.
So please don't let the really good one be the last one. Keep making good ones, And as long as, even if it's not theatrical, like you said, even if it's streaming or turns into a TV series, as long as we continue this storyline and continue to have, they might end up having to change the actors. I really hope they keep Megatron's voice actor because he was killing it.
Yes, they definitely couldn't afford Chris Hemsworth for a long-standing series.
Right.
I wouldn't exactly be...
They'll have Liam Hemsworth.
I liked Chris Hemsworth in the movie.
I did like him.
I wouldn't miss him if he was gone.
Yeah, I liked him, but like I said, I always thought he was kind of somewhere in the middle because he starts as Orion Pax and ends as Optimus Prime. I always thought that his voice was somewhere in between those, though. But yeah, I think that to be fully evil Megatron, I think that Brian Tyree Henry. Yeah, right. I think that he'll probably have to change his performance a little bit going forward. But yeah, as long as they can keep him, I think that, and then get some other good actors. They don't necessarily have to be celebrity actors, but they get some good actors and they continue the storyline.
Exactly.
Even if it's not exactly the same storyline they had planned, as long as they continue the storyline, in some media form that isn't just commercials or something. I think it will be great, and I think they will probably do it.
That being said, this has also been very well received.
Yes.
By the people who have, embraced it.
Right.
The people who actually went to go see it.
Right.
And it will only pick up steam as it goes forward, is that it most likely will achieve cult status.
And they need to... Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with the original movie. That is a cult classic, just all of the 80s distilled into one 90-minute adventure. But when it first came out, it bombed.
Yeah.
And also traumatized a generation.
Right. And, you look at something like Transformers Prime, a lot of people point to that as being like a good entry point for Transformers for people who have no clue what the franchise is about.
Right.
And that one had diminishing returns all the way to the very end. It just lost money all the way through.
It's like the Planet of the Apes movies, where it's like they just kept making sequels, but they just kept cutting the budget in half each time.
I can see Transformers 1 going that same direction. Yeah. Nevertheless, it is such a solid representation of the hope that there are creatives who are still holding on to what exactly is the heart of Transformers and why does this resonate with people to this day, and that it can still be something that can be iterated on, can be found by random people and enjoyed and loved, and that there is still storytelling potential with this concept, and that people do want to still see stuff like that and still see new things done with Transformers and not be confined to the precedent that was set out by the live action movies.
Right.
Even though those have like a lot of nostalgia around them now.
Yeah.
And they do have a lot that they've brought to Transformers.
Yeah.
It's just very comforting to see that something taken in such a wildly different but still true to the heart of Transformers
right
can be well received and people still it still resonates with people.
Yeah.
And that's what's so hopeful about it. So that's why I want to see more with this. It's like
100%.
for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, that is an answer to the cliffhanger question.
Yes, indeed. So thank you all so much for joining us and listening to our ramblings.
Next time we will be discussing Desertion of the Dinobots, Part 1 and 2, Blaster's Blues, and A Decepticon Raider in King Arthur's Court, released in 1985.
Yep.
This is a very fun slew of episodes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Season 2 at its peak.
Indeed.
At the time of this recording, these Transformers episodes are available on Hasbro Pulse YouTube channel, as well as on DVD and several other streaming services such as Tubi. Not sponsored, never have been sponsored, which is why
Probably never will be sponsored.
Probably never will be sponsored. I mean, come on, Hasbro. You know, we're basically
Come on.
we're basically advertising your show for you here. Anyway,
Exactly.
But we just want you to know where to watch these shows so that you know what in the world we're talking about.
Exactly. With all of that, we will see you in the next one when we roll into it.